20th Century Fox presents Race with the Devil. There was nowhere they could hide.
Yeah.
There was nothing they could do but run. Do it! And fight. And race with the devil. Peter Fonda, Warren Oates, Loretta Swit, Lara Parker in Race with the Devil. Rated PG.
Yeah. Welcome to episode 64 of the Music Relish Show. I'm Mark Smith. I'm here with Lou Colicchio. I said it right. And Terry Dedovich. Hey guys, how you doing?
Hey.
Feeling groovy.
Happy spring. It's hot up here.
Here too.
Yeah.
I got 71 today.
Nice.
Hey, I had to put shorts on today. I went out earlier with a sweater and pants. I said, I got to go home and put shorts on.
Sorry to any friends listeners we have in the Southern Hemisphere. I know you guys are going into autumn, so anyway, but we love it. So we got a good show tonight. We're going to be talking about Roger Dean, one of my favorite artists ever for album covers. We're going to be talking about something about Cream and Felix Pappalardi, a little talk on those things. We're going to have, of course, a lot of random relish, some trivia, which I love because I always fail it miserably. And we'll start the show off tonight with some newsfeed stories. Perry, did anything come across your newsfeed this week?
Yeah, a couple of things came across my newsfeed. First one was Paul Weller. Paul Weller coming out with a new album called 66. It's going to be released on his 66th birthday in May.
Cool.
And he has help from a singer from Madness called Suggs. He has help from his old buddy Noel Gallagher. And the artwork on the album was done by Peter Blake.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sgt. Pepper.
Yeah. And he has his single is already released. It's called Soul Wandering. And it's really good. I must say. Yeah. Yep. You can find it out there. Yep.
Yeah. I got to say, I have not heard a dud release from Paul Weller. He went through a little time of just kind of doing the same thing, but even then he writes great songs. You know, he's one of the best.
Yeah, he's always on the move. He's soulful, then he's pop, then he's this, then he's that. You know, then he's acoustic with 22 Dreams. It's all acoustic. Well, you know,
when you hear
what has he done? What's he done the last couple of years? Is this something he hasn't done?
This is his first record in a few years, actually. Yeah.
Okay. Yep. He's been pretty steady. He's been putting out an album every couple of years. But you know, it's funny. Like we talked about that album Wildwood about a year ago. That you know, it's amazing that that's the guy that had the jam. He never sits still with his style. You know.
And it said he recorded it. He's been recording it over the last couple of years because he hasn't had a record out in 3 or 4 years. But he said he recorded it at his Black Barn studio. I don't know where that is, but he has his own studio called Black Barn Studio.
So
cool.
Yeah, you can take your time.
Right. Yep. Without punching a wall.
Without punching about being pressured to write in a hotel.
Right.
Which is a subject we can talk about later on the show. The life of a touring recording musician or is musicians.
Cool. And the only other story that came up is this Pete Best again, where there was this thing came up on my desktop where
Pete Best,
he was the best drummer for the Beatles that they ever had.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, the human metronome, right? Apparently,
hence the name. Yeah,
they used to call him Big Ben, I think.
And it's incredible. Like he just doesn't get it. He cannot admit it. That you
wouldn't either. You got checked out of the Beatles, man. Imagine living with that shit.
He says he was a fine drummer and that he was there at the start of Beatlemania. I'm like, wait a minute, pal. In Liverpool,
Liverpool on the local level,
He
was popular with the girls, and they were popular, but I mean, it was not 1963.
But
Beatlemania.
As I read the article more and more, I forgot what online magazine it was from. Might have been Uncut or one of those British magazines. But
Like Circumcised?
well, it's on Cut Magazine. Yeah, it's a British dude.
It was a Euro thing.
Ooh, that smell.
I'm sorry.
Anyway.
You opened the door.
Anyway,
2 minutes in,
Anyway.
wrote us off the well.
I lost my train, man. What the hell was I talking about?
Train?
It's over.
Oh,
Good
but
night.
they were saying as like the other they were interviews from guys from the other bit like he had no personality. Pete Best. These
Apparently
guys
not.
were funny, and he was just
or
a
cheeky.
bore. He was just a bore. They'd want to hang out after the shows in Hamburg, and he'd just go. You know, Ringo had personality like they did.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a better drummer also. He was the best drummer in Liverpool, apparently.
Okay,
Ringo.
come on.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
No doubt. No doubt.
But I find like to this day, like you can't admit, like I was a fine drummer. I guess he just needs the press every time he does that, right? He'll appear on some television show and
sure.
get paid, right?
You know, if he can milk it for some money, you know, I guess why not? But
You're
as long as you don't
right, yeah.
believe your own press like that, because
Yeah.
we got knocked off of YouTube for proving that kind of not
For,
true
for proving that, yeah,
on this show, on the Music Relish show.
on the tempo changes, yeah.
Yeah,
we,
yeah. On
we
Love
won't
Me
do that again, yeah.
It was Love Me Do, right? Yeah.
It was Pete Best on Love Me Do, and the tempo went from 128 to 132. Then it went to 117. And they said, like, in the middle, when there's like that blue beat part, you're supposed to change tempos like that and still come out where you're supposed to be.
No, you're not changing the tempo. You're changing the feel.
Yes.
It's
yeah.
the same tempo. It's just a different feel. Ringo's done that on several of their songs in the early period.
Absolutely, yeah.
But he just went full, like, fast skiffle.
But, you know, Pete Best had no personality, and he wouldn't get a haircut. He still wanted that 50s Teddy Boy, you know, rock and roll haircut from the 50s.
The
Yeah.
D.A. Pompadour or whatever that was.
DA, yep, absolutely, yeah.
They said he looked like Jeff Chandler, the actor. Whoever. Okay.
That was like he was an English rockabilly. He was like the English version, I think, of Ronnie Hawkins.
That was Gene Chandler, wasn't it?
I don't know.
Yeah, that was Gene Chandler. Jeff Chandler was an actor. Like,
Oh, okay.
otherwise, yeah.
Well, that's what I have as far as news feed stories.
You
go.
know, and the Pete Best thing just keeps spreading because a while back, PBS had something on. They were playing the video, the new Beatles song, you know, and they had to have someone talk about it. So who did they have? They had Pete Best's brother.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what did he have to do with a song that John Lennon wrote in 1979? It just killed me, you know. And here's this guy, but
because the mother was gone by then, so you know you had to have another family member.
Was that his brother? Was that Pete Aspinall's bastard child? Bastard child.
It's Pete, all I know is Pete Best's brother. That's all I know. And
That's probably Neil Aspinall's. That's his half brother.
all right, so he's making money off the Beatles. Everyone is, you know. So
Fuck it, come on.
why not?
And,
I want some Beatle money.
And also, like, Brian Epstein had to call him and tell him he's fired. Like, yeah, well, he's a fucking manager. That's what
you
do. You're out, pal. You know,
it wasn't like they didn't seem like they were really friends, you know. And you know, if kicking someone out of a band is not an easy thing to do.
No,
yeah, but
if there's some camaraderie and friendship involved too, you know,
but there was also a personality personality conflict, you know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's right.
Said, now, a friend of mine said it wasn't that he was a bad drummer; he was a bad Beatle, and it's not. He was not.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
But he was, he was a bad Beatle, but he was not an adequate enough drummer. You know?
Right.
He couldn't swing a sack of shit.
You sound like Ginger Baker.
Well, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm actually Ginger Baker's looking at me from my computer monitor behind me.
Really?
Oh, that's scary.
I'm scared.
And you got absinthe in the background.
I saw the clip the other day where Chad, who's the drummer from Chili Peppers?
Chad Smith.
Chad Smith was interviewing. He goes to light his cigarettes, and Ginger Baker smacks the lighter away from him.
Don't patronize me.
Get that lighter out of here.
Stick a pen in your eye.
So I got a story. I got something really, really small, but it's kind of cool. Willie Nelson has announced his Outlaw Music Festival tour, which he's been doing every year. I might go to this one. It's going to have Bob Dylan will be on every show. Also, it's going to have alternating between Robert Plant and Alison Krauss on some dates and John Mellencamp on other dates.
Well, they can only do 15 minutes each before a nap, so.
But
they rotate, they go lay down and.
My local show in Homedale, New Jersey, is going to be with Robert Plant. I think I might just drive down there myself and check the show out.
That would be cool.
I still have never. I just want to see Bob Dylan before he's gone. I mean, I just my daughter's seen him 5 times.
What about Willie? Bob's only 82.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, Willie.
Willie's 90,
and he played in Queens last summer, and Lucas and his band, Lucas Nelson, opened, and I wanted to see that because his Promise of the Real is a really good band. I like their stuff. So anyway, that's done, and then there's another one. This is going to be interesting. This is a music book I will buy. Alex Van Halen is releasing a book called Brothers in May.
Oh, cool.
Really?
Oh, I'm sorry, due on October 22nd. Sorry, so it's not coming out for a while. And it's an intimate account of his growing up with Eddie, through the years, from Holland coming over here. I think it's going to be really neat. It's going to be good because that Alex and Eddie just loved each other. Those were close brothers.
Yep.
Yeah.
So can't wait for that one. That's going to be a must read for me.
So they were born in Holland. So from the Netherlands, how did they end up in California? Like when would that happen? When they were young boys?
Lou, I think they came here. They didn't speak English when they came. They only spoke Dutch, right?
Yeah,
right?
They did. Yeah.
Really?
They're also their mothers of Indonesian descent. So they're
interesting.
They're Dutch and Asian.
Interesting. But they came to California, just kind of like Lars. He's another one, right? Came to California. I don't think he spoke English either. I think he had to learn English, and you can hear it in his voice.
Very interesting.
They came over as young boys, though. It wasn't. They weren't toddlers either. I think it was like approaching middle school or like probably a grade school maybe. But I forgot what their father did. He was a trumpet player or he was some kind of musician.
Yeah, he had
Dad Van Halen.
And I may be totally wrong on this, but I think he wanted to play music professionally. He couldn't do it in Holland, or vice versa. He was playing professionally in Holland and he needed a real job because musicians
smoked
don't
too much of that hash over there.
There you go. He played, Lou, what song did he play on for Van Halen, the father?
Oh, shit. It has a clarinet, right? Was it? Wait. Oh, Big Bad Bill? No.
That's it. Off a dive.
It was? Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Really?
Cool. Wow.
So.
Memories.
That was a good song, too. But, that's all I got for Newsfeed. Those 2 things. I'm sure there'll be other stuff. There was testimony in the Don Henley stolen lyrics that we talked about. The lawyers for the people being accused are bringing up a lot of dirt on Don Henley. It's not even worth reporting on, but it's good to see that the trial's it's in progress. So let's see what happens.
I'm wondering what kind of dirt can impact the fact that they're arguing over lyrics that were given to someone as part of a project and it wasn't approved. As far as because I read something where they mentioned that party where there was a 16-year-old naked girl there.
Yeah.
Oh,
I heard
I
that
don't
too.
know what
did she steal the lyrics? About. I mean, it's
all I know is that Don Henley said he lent them to the guy to do his project, and they were supposed to be given back.
Yeah, it was supposed to be an authorized Eagles biography, right?
Right. Authorized is a key word.
But as Irving Azoff had to put it, God Henley didn't want it released.
I like that.
Right. So so maybe that's the reason they weren't given back because the release was held up. So maybe they're just a little dueling back and forth with this, right?
But the guys that sold it are they're in trouble. I mean, if they are convicted, if they're come out of it guilty, they're going to jail. So they're just smearing dirt any way they can.
Yeah.
I
don't think anybody's going to go to jail.
We'll see.
A couple of pieces of paper. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see.
I think it's the lyrics to Hotel California. It has some value, but
yeah.
Mark, do you know what happened between why this author had them and why he didn't return them. This litigation hasn't been going on for 40 years either.
I don't remember the details, but I could say that no one is blaming him. I think he was conned, but nobody is after him at all in this. So
nobody's after Henley.
No, the author. He's not in the being sued or anything.
Okay. So it's whoever.
Yeah. Henley's going after these two guys that got him and just want to make a ton of money off them. Yeah.
I have one other thing that came up in the newsfeed. This is a thing lately now, apparently, is selling cassettes. Ringo's auctioning off these cassette tapes he had.
Oh, okay. Demos.
This is just conversations and songs that Paul McCartney's doing the same thing. Song Paul on cassette. They're selling cassettes now.
Wow.
Like that Ringo recorded on a little tape recorder.
Mm-hmm.
3 cassettes are, they were already bought by somebody. Now that company that bought it is now auctioning them off again.
Right.
And it's just Ringo talking to, the boys or, whatever, but stuff that's never been heard before. So
it's going to make
everyone's interested. It's Beatles stuff that's never been heard.
Yeah.
Or McCartney's song that's no one ever heard that he was working on cassette. So these things are going to start surfacing. So go ahead. Sorry, Lou.
Well, the fact that if you got the right technology and equipment, all those cassette that you have, they can be cleaned up. Look at what they did with John Lennon stuff.
Yeah.
And we have stuff that could use cleaning up. I mean, I got stuff that's like, it's all intact still, but it needs to be like run through the denoiser like 5,000 times. Or the compressor.
We still have to record the Jesus song in Spanish. For the
it's supposed to be big in South America, right?
For the Latin market, yeah.
I'm ready, man. Corazón. Esta noche, Jesus.
But that's the thing lately. Oh, sorry, Mark. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I did hear that there were a lot of cassettes laying around of interviews.
Yeah.
And I think when these are sold, they're gonna find a lot more and a lot more and a lot more. It's probably hundreds of them.
Like I said, we spoke maybe a month ago about all these John Lennon cassettes and everything, and we're like, how many do you think Paul has? Well, Paul's got a bunch of them, I'm sure.
For sure,
Yeah.
That when Paul decides not to hit the road anymore, these things will start coming out.
Yeah.
And think about it, like a cassettes would be the last thing they're going to throw out to the public.
I love cassettes. Cassettes are making a big comeback too.
How come? I mean, well, actually, there's high quality cassette tape also.
Sure, there are. High buys,
Made at home cassettes are great. High mass produced cassettes suck because I was in that industry. So I would love to make a mixtape again. I'd love to get a chrome tape, like a Maxell chrome tape, and record. If you get the level just at the right level, you get the tape compression without it overloading, and you got this nice sound. But let me tell you, I don't miss buying a cassette in a store. In fact, I used to buy vinyl, and then I went to CDs. I bought a few cassettes. But I would buy the vinyl and then record it on the cassette for the car.
When I was a kid, they used to have the cassette. You just used to slide it in. There was no case you had to open and close. Just slid it right in there.
Yeah.
Deep Purple Machine Head I had. I had Black Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. Just slide it right in there.
White Snake, slide it in. Slide it. Oh, sorry. That was bad.
Yeah, that was really bad.
All right. So listen. So if we're going to move on, let's the first story we're going to talk about. It involves some multimedia, so we want to get to it in case your computer goes slow. We're going to talk about Roger Dean, who is one of my favorite album designers because I grew up with Yes, and I literally sat and looked at those albums.
Excuse me, my computer slow. My computer, by the way, is 56K, pal, and it's got Windows 7 on it. So don't tell me my computer's slow,
bro. My computer's 100 gazillion K. Okay. Only problem is it's only using one of them.
I have Windows 5. Yeah.
Oh, you got me. I got 3.1.
So Roger Dean.
So Roger Dean, yeah. So when I was growing up, Yes album covers, and if anyone doesn't know, those Yes album covers that have planets flying through, pieces of planets in the sky, look suspiciously like the movie Avatar, which I'll touch on later.
You've said in the past that there was some lawsuit pending, right?
Yeah, well, let's I'll get it because I saw him last October. Yes toured, and it was the Yes with Steve Howe. There's two Yeses.
Steve Howe, yeah.
And I like him because of Billy Sherwood. He was picked by Chris Squire to be his replacement. Their opening act was Roger Dean. He came out and he talked for about 45 minutes. If you're not really into it, it was boring. I loved it though. And he talked about his career. He started as he worked in industrial architecture. That's where the basis. I would never have guessed that, but he showed how his design actually has a very engineering background to it. But it's otherworldly. All his covers were like of other planets, other whatever, universes. And it's like, that is a perfect example of what we loved about records. I would sit, listen to Close to the Edge. Now, of course, the cover is kind of boring, right? But I would listen to Close to the Edge and look at this, and I'm holding up. It's islands coming up through the clouds, and that to me is just fascinating. That's great.
That's Roger Dean artwork, right?
Yeah. And by the way, it does look like Avatar. So, but yeah, he's just like, and then later on, I thought he only did Yes. By the way, he designed the Yes logo that was for years. He also he's responsible for their logo.
For what, the bubble riding thing?
Yeah,
or whatever that's called.
Yep, that's him. He designed it. So residuals, baby. But he did make just to touch on the Avatar thing. He did sue, because first time I saw Avatar, I said, this is Roger Dean. Like, wow. So he called Avatar in his speech when I saw him. He said the year it came out was the year that it was the most expensive Yes video ever made without the music of Yes. So what he was referring to, obviously, was, he doesn't, he just wanted a piece of that, because they really did take his influence on it, but he didn't get a penny out of it. So now you can buy his lithographs, and then he has a store and everything. And one day I will get one of his lithographs on my wall. I can't wait. But
download it and print it.
Nah, it wouldn't be the quality. He needs to make money, One of my favorites is, so Yes Songs came out, the live album, 3-record set.
Yeah.
And this is what makes vinyl so good. It has one gate sleeve, right?
Yeah.
And then it's got a second gate sleeve. That's amazing. Like, it had 2 gate sleeves on the album.
Yeah, and what do you think it cost for all that artwork when it came out in '72 or whenever it was?
It had a third gate sleeve. Had 3 gate sleeves.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, it's got an Avatar little look about it.
Yeah. So it's like a big,
Yeah.
Whatever. But I would sit, literally, lay on my bed, look at those pictures, and listen. That's because I'm a science fiction guy, fantasy and all that.
And I think that's the idea when these albums came out. I mean, you looked at the lyrics in the middle of it, so you'd be lying in your bed with your headphones on. So same with the music, it helped with the visual imagery you were seeing in your head.
Yeah.
You were seeing the pictures, and
it was an experience.
Now you gotta go like this.
To get that right.
I can't see you guys on this thing.
Well, And You and I by Yes. Now that song to me is otherworldly. I look at that and I think of these. That to me, I see Roger Dean's paintings in my mind, the islands in the sky and everything. Another one he did in 1980 was the Yes shows. This is a little harder to see, but I like the bird. It always, for some reason, I thought of Siberian Katru, which was one of the Yes songs. When I see this, I don't know why, but kind of a neat, I love his. I can look at his stuff all day.
He worked with them mostly, didn't he?
Mostly, but he also designed a couple album covers for Uriah Heep. So we've got this one, The Wizard. And was that The Wizard? Demons and Wizards. I'm sorry. Demons and Wizards with the hit song Easy Living.
Oh, okay, cool.
Wow, yeah.
Easy Living.
Then there's the album after that was The Magician's Birthday, which I found kind of eerie because it's hard to show, but you see this demon up here. It's kind of freaky.
I see the Mercury Records logo.
Yeah. It's good, It's just like, this is a little simpler than a Yes album. Like, it's a little more, it's not as involved, but that's what they wanted,
But also, it was pretty much, around the 70s, early to mid 70s, all this stuff, right?
Well, what you wanted to do was, I think bands were starting to get him to do their album covers, because I'm a perfect example. I saw I think I saw Demons and Wizards first in Music Merchant in Westwood, New Jersey. I bought it without hearing it only because it looked like a Yes album. And I think some bands picked up on that. Like
I may have a sample of the first album cover that he did was from a group called Gun. And then he had a group called Budgie, which I've heard Van Halen fans talk about a lot, right?
Yeah.
Budgie?
Yep. Budgie.
Yeah. So let's see if this comes up. This is Gun and Budgie, the first two. That's Gun.
Oh,
that's
wow.
That's the first album cover he did.
I never saw that before.
Wow.
And then he did a group called Budgie.
Budgie, yeah.
Yeah.
It's got that writing of the name Budgie. That looks like his signature.
Yeah. That's that sort of, yeah.
And a budgie is really, that's a parakeet is called a budgie in Australia.
Oh, really?
That's why, but yeah.
David Lee Roth called Yoko the budgie bird on John Lennon's back.
Wow. And I have a Gentle Giant cover also.
Gentle Giant.
I remember seeing their records.
A
lot of people had their records. And
they're really weird prog rock. I'm not a fan.
Yeah, I know. That was. I think what
killed him for me was for the vocals. I didn't like the vocals. I've learned to appreciate them. I've learned to say, "Oh, they were a good band," but those vocals are rough.
This came up on one of our older shows,
yes,
and we talked about this, and we're like, "This shit's just too odd, man." You know, it's just, right? But we're talking about the artwork
not for Mark,
now.
apparently.
We're talking about the artwork now.
Like
And I think is this the one with the octopus?
Right? It's called
there it is, Gentle Giant Octopus.
Right?
Yeah,
that's probably
it's a red octopus.
Yeah, there you go. Do you believe
and then
in
he
miracles?
did an Asia album cover with a sea
he did
monster.
Asia? He did Asia?
He did a sea monster. Yeah.
Yep.
That was Roger Dean. Yeah. Yep.
That's a classic, iconic. The Octopus album is probably their best. By the way, Steve Wilson remixed their entire catalog. Yeah, another group he had association with. That Asia album, unfortunately, that Asia album has also gone down in history as like a geeky album. You know, it's everything. Like you wouldn't want to put it on a T-shirt, but it is an iconic album cover.
Yeah.
What else you got? You got anything else?
The only one I have is these guys from Yes had an album. The band was called Anderson, Wake. Who was
Anderson,
the drummer?
Bruford, Wakeman, and Howe.
Anderson, Wakeman, Bruford, and Howe.
Almost.
And it was a Roger Dean cover on that. Like, look at that thing, man.
I can't even read the name.
Really.
That's almost unreadable for me.
But it looks like Avatar.
It does, yeah. I love that album.
It looks like a giant rib tickled condom. That's what it looks like.
Well, you know, I could see like what he did was he created his own world.
That's what he
artwork.
does.
So
it's almost Tolkien like.
Yeah. So
absolutely.
as far as Avatar ripping him off, I don't know about that. I mean, I'm sure he's not the only artist to come up with stuff like that.
No,
right?
He is pretty original. Nobody else. He's like an H.R. Geiger. Now, you know, H.R. Geiger is the guy that did the cover to Brain Cell Surgery. He also designed the Alien and Alien. There's no one like him.
No, but I'm saying like Peter Max, Peter Max stuff. There's other artists who did like, you know, that Peter Max sort of hippie sort of. Yeah.
But as far as Roger Dean,
Perry, we're going to touch upon that because
we are.
Yeah, we are because that type of artwork indicative of that period. Yes, we are.
See, look at that.
This is an all-comprehensive show here.
Yes, it is.
I'll say this about Roger Dean: no one copied his style for album covers, so I think he was right to sue because it made so much money. I think that they wouldn't have had those ideas if it wasn't for him because it was done by a generation of people like me that were influenced by those album covers, you know.
See, we did a PowerPoint on Roger Dean, right?
Yeah. Great. He's still around. He's a very approachable guy. After the show, they had a little room where he was selling his lithographs. I couldn't afford any of them. But he didn't expect you to buy one. I went up to him and I shook his hand. He was extremely nice to me. He looks like Frodo or Bilbo Baggins from Lord of the Rings. He looks like that actor.
Well,
it's very
interesting.
Nice guy.
Like, who's the photographer, Lou, that you talked about one time?
Henry Diltz.
Henry Diltz. Like you go to his thing. You know, you want a print of his Morrison Hotel? $400 for a professional print of Morrison Hotel.
Yeah.
So yeah, these things, like I see Roger, like Mark said, he couldn't afford the Roger Dean. Yeah,
He was charging $1,200 for his lithographs.
Wow.
$1,200.
Wow.
And people buy them.
Sure
People
they do.
buy them. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a copy.
Art is collectible.
Well, they're all signed by him, so
Art
you got
has
a piece
value.
of his.
Oh, okay, yeah, I've got a few of those things, like in the number 12 of 180, you know, or right.
Yeah.
You know, it's cool the fact that even though a Roger Dean lithograph is whatever is $1,200, look how much shit costs. You know, like a car, or whatever. Like art has value.
Yeah.
And if you care about it, you care about it enough. You know, like I said, people love his artwork. To own a piece of his artwork or like a copy, you know, something that came from his thing, you know, it's pretty cool, man.
And it's unlike an artist
what other
who
things
is,
cost.
and unlike an artist who's just selling his art, Roger Dean has this this was on an album cover that you grew up loving, so you're going to want a piece of this. So I saw this lithograph for Yes shows, and I wanted to buy it for that reason. Like, that's one of my favorite albums, you know.
But it's like we were saying earlier, it's part of the overall experience. Like art is art, right? It's part of, you know, music is art. It was an experience with the triple gatefold you had.
Yeah.
And right?
Yeah.
You know, it's like the albums became like I remember having a Tom Petty album, like had a front cover and a back, so yeah, whatever, dude. You know, and a sleeve, which is a clear Mylar sleeve inside. Like, this is boring, man, for $8.98. You know?
What I liked about Uriah Heep, though, is I bought this, right? And I see this great, but when you open up the inside, it's got pictures of the band, so you knew who the band were, you know? And I like that you have both things. You have Roger Dean on the cover, and you can sit there, okay, that's the drummer, Lee Kerslake. That's Mick Fox, the guitarist, you know, and you don't get people downloading do not get these experiences anymore.
No,
it's a shame.
Yeah, it was all personal. Yeah. And they're even like some of those credits even listed people like, I wonder why they were on there. I mean, they listed a lot of engineering and a whole lot of technical aspects and things like that, and assistants and all kinds of things. And
studio where it was recorded is very important to me. So like Rush, I always saw Rush recorded in only in Canada, and then when I bought my hemispheres and I looked Wales at Rockfield Studios. I'm like, holy shit, they went to England, you know.
Yep.
But
it still can be, you know. I mean, the shirt I'm wearing, I made it myself. The Beatles Rubber Soul album cover. You know, you can still do you can download a picture and have it quality enough to have it printed, and you know.
Yeah, exactly. So that's Roger Dean. I hope, you know, he seems to be still working, and I hope we see more from him. I'm sure anyone that's in Yes will ask him. I think he did the newest Yes album. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure he did that as well. So he's always going to have a gig.
Well, the one that he didn't do was that first one, 90210 and 90 Beverly Hills 901. Yeah, that
90215. Yeah, he didn't do that one.
And that was done by an Apple II computer.
He also didn't do Tormato, which came out in 1978. That was kind of weird that they just didn't use him for that. So yeah, he didn't do everything.
Yeah,
and he didn't do the first.
Do you know who you did Tormato?
Who?
Do you know? I don't know.
I'm not sure, but it's a play on tomato because if you look at it, it's like cracked glass on a tomato.
Yeah.
But I think they were just trying to be, you know, it was at the height of punk, and they were trying to do something a little more grungy. I think, you know. Come on, you know. He also didn't do the first one, two.
See, here's more of the zeitgeist, the circular talk.
Well,
because go ahead, Lou.
Yes, are the reason that punk rock became. The idea of like Yes trying to be like we need to like be a little more punk in our approach is it's not going to happen. Right?
It's stupid.
Well, I have a little thing later on Random about how some of these prog bands from the 70s changed in the 80s.
Well,
Perry,
it's interesting you say that because if we're done with Roger Dean, I wanted to pull out some Random Relish. You want to bring that up right now?
Yeah, let me find my.
Be a nice segue, you know. We were talking about a prog band.
Yeah, I'm like
I ride a Segway.
I'm like oh yeah. Well, here, okay, I'll start with this. All right, so there's just some like 70s prog bands in the 80s, like for instance, King Crimson in the 80s. They had Adrian Belew, and they became more quirky, right? They're a little like almost Talking Heads like in a sense, right? With
Adrian Belew.
More pop is about as pop as they could be.
Yes,
it's a great period. It's a great
absolutely great period.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and but right, because it was it was completely opposite from King Crimson in the 70s. So you're right.
Right.
In a decade, in the 80s, they changed when all this new wave was happening, or whatever you want to call it, right?
Yep.
And even Yes, right? When they had Trevor Rabin, then they had the guys from the Buggles, or is Trevor Rabin the guy from the Buggles? I don't know.
No, that was Trevor Horn.
Trevor Horn.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was
so
drama.
They had two Trevors in the band.
They did, yeah. Sound like a TV show. My Two Trevors. But so Yes was one of those bands too in the 80s.
Yeah.
Right.
And, it's funny, that one hit they had, the album that they did with the guys from the Buggles, had the song Tempest Fugit. That's it's a pretty straight ahead song.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not all that offbeat. It's not all that really. It's proggy in their own way, but it's a pretty straight ahead rock and roll song.
Great bass line.
Yeah.
I love that. I thought it was a great single, man.
Me too.
Good.
And then, of course, the elephant in the room, Genesis in the 80s.
Yeah.
Wow. What a transformation, man.
Yeah.
From the 70s prog, post Peter Gabriel, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
To pure pop for now people, or whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah, well, a pure pop, they were still, in a lot of ways, Genesis was always kind of unusual, even for a pop band. I mean, they could have a song like That's All, but then they have a song called Mama.
Mama. God,
from the
what's
same,
that?
It's from the same album, and it's, I mean, two totally different things. Mama is sinister, and Phil Collins is amazing on it.
Yeah.
Both drumming and his vocal on it. It's the song's creepy as hell, man. It is. It's something that would have been from the Peter Gabriel period. That's a Genesis that harkens back to the weird prog days, But that song is fucking dark, man.
And it was a hit video on MTV. Go figure.
Yeah.
Long song. Oh, you know where he channeled that from?
No.
The rap song. There's a rap song. Man, it makes you think you're going under. Ha ha ha. There's a rap song.
Really? It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder.
Yeah, there you go.
Going under,
so, Phil said that he just not that the song was based on that, but that that little bit added on is good. Though.
Excuse me. And of course, the other elephant in the room. I do not like this band, but I know you guys do. So perhaps you can tell me, Rush, how they evolved into the 80s. And
you know what I think with Rush?
Brilliantly.
I think Rush went from a hard rock progressive band into more, I say in the 80s, they were more progressive in the 80s. I think they went more into their own sound. That's just my opinion. Because if you meet Rush fans, they're divided. Not divided. There's plenty that like all the periods, but you got a lot that only like the 70s. But yeah, Perry, you're bringing up a good point. Prog bands that successfully went into the 80s because some didn't,
Right. That was the point, how they evolved as the music scene changed.
Lou, do you think that they got more progressive? I mean, or do you think I think they found their own sound more than anything.
I like what you said about them finding their own sound, because a song like Mystic Rhythms.
Yeah.
Perry, you don't know, but it's a very drummy, very tribal. It's just a whole different thing there. Yeah. It was very much 80s. It could have been almost like Adam and the Ants. Neil Peart was a new wave fan.
Ultravox,
Ultravox, yeah. I mean, and the Police, and I'm sure others, obviously other stuff. But I do think that in some ways they did become more proggy. I mean, they became less of a heavy metal hard rock band in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
it was more. It sounded more polished, but that was the 80s. Every major rock band that made a record in the 80s didn't go back to the basics.
Right. The sound got a little lighter, didn't it?
Well, it became more pop.
Right.
Glossy.
And there were periods where it's funny because the drama and the growth of a band, especially guys like Rush that were very close. Mark, you said Alex Lifeson became almost alienated at one point, where he felt like the guitar is being relegated almost to a secondary instrument because of the times and because of the songs and what was maybe best for the songs that were being presented. Although they're all writers on it.
So when I hear a song like Tom Sawyer, that's the 80s.
Or early 80s, yeah.
That was
that's one of those transitional songs that I'm kind of.
Well, right? In a way, that was what they were getting on the radio and stuff. But they weren't. That wasn't a mainstream really record like that, though.
No, and that album's and the album with Spirit of the Radio still had a lot of guitar. Those were like the bridge albums.
Yes, they were. Yeah,
and Signals, the keyboards got heavier.
Yeah,
and then but the Signals, I think, had the best. That had the last one had a good balance between guitar and keyboards. And after that, poor Alex, he went out to pasture.
Yeah. Moving Pictures. It's got Tom Sawyer. That was the crystallization. That was Rush saying this is. I mean, I think they all love that record, by the way.
And we play keyboards.
There's so many good songs on it. It's a perfect record. That's a perfect record.
Yeah.
Especially for its genre.
Yeah.
Now, I have a couple more random stories, Mark, if you want.
Can I just mention, though?
Whatever you want.
Really quick, all the bands that like the prog bands that made it, and that was huge to make it into the 80s and not sound like you were pandering, because there were bands that went into the 80s and they sounded like they were just trying too hard to sound like 80s. One of them was Renaissance. They were a really good 70s band. Their 80s stuff, not that good, you know?
I never heard anything from the 80s. Was it modern sounding?
I didn't even know they were around in the 80s. Renaissance.
Yeah, they stayed together. Anthony Phillips.
There was Annie Hopslam, or whatever her name was. Annie Haslam. Horse lips.
They got like a drum machine sound. You don't necessarily had to have a drum machine sound to be 80s, but they were trying to get that sound, you know? A guy named Anthony Phillips. Now, he was a guitarist of Genesis before Steve Hackett. He had a relatively, in prog sense, not popular, but he had a relatively successful solo career, sporadic, and then in the 80s he kind of tried to do pop. I think he heard Yes do it and he went nowhere. A band that was still kind of successful but I don't think transitioned well was Jethro Tull. They did an album called Under Wraps, which is all drum machines, and it's very cool.
They went heavy metal, man.
Yeah. I'm not into their 80s output. I saw them like 3 times in the 80s and they were great live, but I don't like their 80s output. But you know, they still made money. So there's plenty others. ELP, I don't think would have, if they stayed together, I don't think.
Well, that was one I didn't get into. What happened to ELP in the 80s? Was that where they were in their pastel period? Was that them?
You could probably blame Ahmet Ertegun, because Ahmet Ertegun wanted them to do one more album. They were burned out. They wanted to take a break.
Yeah, this is so cool. This is so cool.
Yeah, and he
got. I have an Ahmet Ertegun one out more.
It's all circular discussion. Yep.
It is. This is wow. Okay, cool.
Yeah, they did Love Beach. It was hard.
Simpatico.
Yeah, they did Love Beach. No one, you know, the guys hated it and they left, and that was it for them. But I don't know if they would have transitioned, because they couldn't have done Asia. That Asia album was the transition for Carl Palmer, you know, into the 80s.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
He had to dumb himself down for Asia. Nothing against the song. You know, they're good pop rock songs. You know, they're very catchy.
They didn't need paradiddles in Asia.
No. Even at the end of Heat of the Moment, he's doing some kind of that Marshall drumming. Down. He's doing that.
Yeah, but Lou, do you notice he loses the rhythm? Like, he kind of gets fast. He's not steady.
No,
his fills are way off.
Well, he can't play that slow, right?
Not unlike Pete Best.
Yep.
All right.
John Lennon wrote "I Am the Greatest," not for Ringo, but for Pete Best.
There you go.
Ringo stole that song.
Well, Lou, what is going on here? Look, I got a Ringo thing, dude. Ringo, man.
It's not a full moon.
This is
this
is weird.
All right, so let's get because as the Hearst with the worst, I'm watching the time. So Lou, do you have anything random, or do you just got stories? Or?
I have no. I just got my little Cream Felix Pappalardi.
Well, you know what? Let me knock out
I have pages on it.
Let me knock out my random stuff.
And after your random stuff, I got to go get a pizza.
Okay.
In aisle 13.
I watched a little bit. Recommended Kennedy Center Honors Billy Joel. I saw maybe a few songs, and the group called Panic at the Disco was there.
Yeah, I know.
They sang "Big Shot, Big Shot." You had to. I was like, yeah, okay, cool. Don Henley came out and sang "She's Got Away." Hearing Don Henley sing it is like, wow, man, this guy is a singer.
Yeah.
You know, with a natural voice.
Yeah,
right.
Garth Brooks comes out.
David Geffen knew that with the Eagles.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. He sang one song on the first album.
Garth Brooks came out and sang my favorite Billy Joel song. Well, we're
Allentown?
living here in Allentown.
Oh,
yep.
Wow. And
then he went into that Vietnam song, which I can't stand. We will all go down together. Okay. And then Rufus Wainwright came out, and he's got a great voice, Rufus Wainwright.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he sang New York State of Mind.
Oh, wow. Cool.
And then he went into another song after that, the dreaded Piano Man. Like, take that song away, and KC Pull.
Did anybody do Captain Jack?
I didn't stick around long enough to. I just saw a few songs. But then after that, it went to Carlos Santana, Kennedy Center Honors.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
And I saw one song on that. It was Black Magic Woman. And who's the guitar player that had a little strings hanging out on the top? Makes wacky sounds with his guitar. Tom Morello played the guitar on this.
Morello.
It was fantastic.
Wow.
Fantastic.
He plays
him
wacky
playing
guitar.
on Black Magic Woman. Yep.
Wow.
You know, my Tom Morello story, real quick. He was in a band before Rage Against the Machine that were being pushed. They were kind of that rap rock. They were in the beginning of that. They opened for Zebra up at the Chance in Poughkeepsie. They played their show. They were pretty good for what they were. After the show, he's hanging out, and I just went up to him, and I saw his style. He doing that weird stuff with his pickup, So I went up and I struck up a conversation with him. He was the nicest guy. We hung out and watched the show together. I guarantee if I met him today, of course he's not going to remember, but he was a really nice guy. So that's why I like him.
Oh, and then after that, Tom Morello was there, and they came out with that one other Santana song, spinning round, 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 down, and Sheila E. came out. Sheila E. came out and was playing the congas or
whatever.
Yeah, yep. And she, of course, she had a little solo piece there, and
that's cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
But I have.
I love those Kennedy Center honors. They are good. They're very good.
I don't watch the whole. I just watch a few songs, and I love that song, and I don't like that song, but I love this song. And, But Ringo, I heard Ringo back off Boogaloo the other day, and I love that friggin' song. I think I may have had the 45. It's George Harrison doing a slide guitar on that. Well, you have the book, right? You know all that, right?
Who wrote that?
I think Ringo did, and George on slide guitar, Klaus Vormann on bass. Klaus Vormann plays the saxophone on that song.
Wow.
Yeah, and Gary Wright plays the piano on it.
Gary Dreamweaver Wright.
Gary Dreamweaver Wright. Yeah,
New Jersey. He just died. Am I getting? I get him mixed up with the guy. Get Gary Wright mixed up with someone else.
Yeah, let's not claim
Gary Brooker.
Somebody.
No, it's not. Yeah.
Gary Brooker just died. That's who you might be thinking of.
No. There's another. It's no. Anyway, who did My Love Is Alive? Eric Carmen.
No, that's Gary Wright.
That's Gary Wright. Anyway, no.
He's the Dreamweaver guy. That was his other hit. Yeah, but the Beatles. White Album, why don't we do it in the road, right? And John Lennon said, that was the best song, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That song just has Paul and Ringo. That's it. There's only two people on it, Paul and Ringo.
Yeah. Apparently, John said he was kind of angry or bummed out that Paul didn't ask him to play on it.
And there's another song, Martha, My Dear. It's just Paul and George, the only two people on it.
Wow.
George plays electric guitar on it.
And Paul plays drums
on Martha, My Dear. Yeah, George on guitar. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. Because when it goes, hold your head up, you hear some, you hear some guitar in there.
Wow.
So I got a couple more quick stories.
And I got one too before Lou. Well, we'll get all our stuff in before Lou.
Hal Blaine. I was reading about Hal Blaine, an old interview with Hal Blaine.
You mean Harold Belsky?
Yeah, that was one of my trivia questions. In fact,
oh well,
oops, let the cat out of the bag.
Harold Simon Belsky, real name Hal Blaine. Yep. But anyway, Hal Blaine was talking about. He did this thing. He was in a recording session, and he had heard an English band doing that with the hi-hat when you hit it and you close it quick.
Yes, there's no name for that thing.
Well, he called it the squeeze box effect. Hal Blaine. They referred to it as like a squeeze box effect.
Right.
So he was on a session, and Lou Adler was producing, and he was doing that, and Lou Adler told him, "Stop doing that. It sounds horrible. It sounds like electricity or something."
It sounds like white noise.
It sounds like something, yeah. But then Hal Blaine said he was on Johnny Rivers' Poor Side of Town, and he did it. And Lou Adler's like, Johnny Rivers said, "That sounds great. Keep doing that." So Johnny, the powerhouse, Johnny Rivers said, "Yeah, keep doing that." Even though Lou Adler didn't like hearing it, Johnny Rivers loved it. It's on the record.
Wow. Yeah. It's funny because it's on the verses. Sour beats. I mean, it's funny because I use it all the time. I do it all the time. I did about a million.
I've known you to do that for a long, long time. Yeah.
Bill Berry's another drummer that did that a lot. I mean, a lot of people do. Max Weinberg hardly ever. Ringo, not that much.
Yeah.
Ringo, but back then, engineers in the
you hit the hi hat and close it, right?
Wait, no, you lift your foot up and hit it at the same time.
Right. Yeah.
And I mean, I'd say 80% of 85% of disco is based upon that.
Yeah.
It's very machiney, but I think it's an interesting texture. I always find it a good way to get people who have tempo issues, because sometimes we work with multiple singers and people, and their rhythms are kind of off. It can kind of you gotta keep this thing together. That's a good way to bring people back to the chorale. I find it's something. It kind of triggers something like, "Oh, we're in," you know.
Yeah.
But
one more quick story. This is from Far Out magazine.
Far Out.
This was a quote in 1974 when the Eagles recorded the Tom Waits song "Old 55."
Mm-hmm.
Tom Waits did not like it. He did not like the original version with Tom Waits. It had more feeling.
I just heard it on the radio today.
I don't know if it had any more feel. I think Eagles did a fine version.
Well, Tom Waits said, "I do not like the Eagles." He says, "I don't like the Eagles." He said, "They're as boring as watching paint dry."
Oh, that could be true. I mean,
there's people that would say that about him, though. Not me. I love Tom Waits, but
if Tom Waits is one of those artists who's ever evolving.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's it. What do you got?
All right, I just wanted to give you real quick. So U2 just finished their residency at the Sphere, and I wanted to give you some numbers from
What's
it.
That?
That's
That's a Las Vegas residency.
So the Sphere is this big globe. If you see it from the outside in Las Vegas, it's this big thing that looks like a planet. And when you go inside, you got the seats, and it's a big ball over you. So they're the first band to play there. It's going to be utilized. Before, when they were building it, everyone said it's not going to work because it's just too damn expensive. U2 were massively successful. Hopefully, it translates to other artists. I'm happy that U2, after all these years, can still do this stuff. Make popular. So, here's some numbers from this residency. The screen that they utilized during the concert is 160,000 square feet. It envelops you. Above you, below you, behind you. It's amazing.
Okay, so the whole dome is the screen.
Yeah, 160,000, right?
Yeah. Well, that's
like a planetarium.
I think I'd vomit. I'd get dizzy and throw up.
I saw some of it, and I don't even want to know what it's like to be there, but I saw some cell phone footage that was just incredible. It took 18 months to prepare this residency. 18 months that they were working on it.
Yeah.
They only held 40 concerts, but they all sold out. The number of speakers in the PA in the Sphere, 1,886 speakers placed throughout the Sphere. So the sound has got to be fabulous. They sold 661,456 tickets in those 40 concerts. U2 were paid $170 million.
Wow.
They played, during their residency, they played 38 different songs, switching it up, obviously. The total revenue was $256 million. And then here's a little stat. They had one opening act. I don't know. It's weird because I thought it was just them. But
I'm sure they gave Larry Mullen a cut of that, right? even though he wasn't there.
I bet.
Yeah, of course. There's no bad blood with them. Okay, so only one man opened for U2 during the residency. Paul Lovejoy, aka Paulie the PSM, UK-born drummer and producer. He opened up one show, I guess. Okay, all right, so that's it. But I did see they made, this would be great with Roger Dean. You could make a whole world in there, I would love to see, I know it's not just going to be musical artists, but I'd love to see what other bands possibly can do this. Pretty interesting.
Cool.
So, yeah, God bless them. They're still at it. I like U2. I'm an unabashed fan, and they're still pulling it in, so I'm glad for them.
I saw a picture on my phone news, and it says, an ailing Larry Mullen Jr. joins U2 on stage. So he was at one of the shows, just came up, and he didn't play or anything.
Yeah.
Right?
Who knows? Maybe they had a drum kit set up and he did something basic.
Well, he's ailing from a back operation, right?
Yeah. I think it's like related.
He's not ill. He's just recovering from an operation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's it. Lou, is your pizza here, or do you want to
talk amongst yourselves for a minute?
Oh, you got it. Me and Perry will talk.
Yakety yak yak yak.
I'm like Mark. I'm like
Do you, you ever hear Uriah Heep, Perry?
No, it's interesting with that YouTube thing, though. I know Larry Mullen, he's recovering from a pretty serious back operation, apparently, right?
I didn't know about. I knew he had an operation. I didn't know it was that serious. The other one is we just had a musician who had a massive heart attack. Who is that? Phil Ehart.
I don't know. I want to know that, man.
Phil Ehart, the drummer of Kansas, had what was called, it's being described as a massive heart attack. He lived, but he's probably never going to play for them.
Took him off the road, right?
Yeah, but they're still trudging on. They got his drum tech is going to be the replacement. You can't get better than that because he knows
that happens.
Out.
It's like, but I understand how like Scott McLean from Milk Crates and Turntables feels. There's a bass player from ZZ Top who is, I forget what his name is now. He grew a beard and all that stuff, but he's not Dusty Hill.
I know. They try to make him look the part, though.
Is it Dusty Hill, the bass player, or the drummer?
That's Frank Beard is the drummer.
All right. Dusty Hill is the,
Yeah, and it's Frank, the only one without a beard.
And it's a Texas goatee, that beard. That's what they call it, Texas goatee. But in other words, it's not, to some people, it's not ZZ Top without Dusty Hill. And
I hear you.
I can understand that. Yeah.
I can understand it. It's hard when, I'll tell you, REM were lucky. They got a drummer that, even though, they were able to continue. Tom Petty lucked out. He got a drummer that worked.
Yeah.
Doesn't always work, And it's also, I hate to say it, Dusty Hill or Frank Beard. If Frank Beard were to retire, they could probably even get away with replacing him. Not to a diehard ZZ Top fan, but you could never replace, of course, Billy Gibbons. I mean, he's the centerpiece of that band. So,
yeah, but it's like, it's like Dire Straits without Mark Knopfler.
I know.
You know what I mean? It's like there is no Dire Straits without Mark Knopfler.
And right? Genesis tried to tour without Phil Collins. It was a disaster.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah,
I know. I love that album. I'm a minority, but I love that album. But they couldn't do it. What were they thinking?
You guys are talking about replacing me.
Drummers that were replaced. Yeah. We were talking about drummers
where he doesn't have to have headphones on to hear what's going on. It's like, boy, he's so untrusting.
I'm paranoid.
All right, I'm going to my fridge. I'm going to my fridge. I'll be right back.
We were talking about bands that replace, like Perry was talking about Dusty Hill, being replaced, and how some fans don't like it. And I was saying that unfortunately, diehard fans wouldn't like it, but you can replace him. You could probably even replace Frank Beard. You could never replace Billy Gibbons.
No,
and I don't think they could get away with now replacing Frank Beard. You couldn't have two other guys, in the band.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that would just be schlock. But
our friend Scott McLean has some pretty strong opinions on that.
Yeah. There's a lot of people with this Yes tour. They get pissed off and they say, "Oh, it's the Steve Howe project." They go, "Well, listen. Chris Squire on his deathbed said he wanted Yes to continue, and he said he wanted Billy Sherwood to replace him. So."
That's a hand-picked successor. So that's something where, Or the Eagles with Deacon Fry. I mean, that's Glenn Fry's son. He can't sing his father's song, and he can't call it the Eagles.
I know.
I like Eagles. They may be as dull as paint drying at times, but I mean, no more so than anyone else in that period.
But
I think it's Southern rock. Warren Zevon, there's always the exception. Like Linda Ronstadt, a lot of her stuff, I like it.
Yeah,
but a lot of her stuff, I said, it's really no different than anything the Eagles did. She got hit with Desperado. Right. So I think the Lebowski might be wrong in some aspects.
You can say that they're boring.
The Ronstadt song
you can say they're boring, but Eagles wrote some of the most beautiful songs ever written. So
a whole lot of country rock and Southern California rock is not known for its high excitement level. Either we're talking about like the fact the Eagles were considered like what's the guy? What's his name? Tom Waits said that. It's like listening to paint dry, or whatever. A lot of that music, their music was no more dull or no more less exciting than a lot of other stuff in that same vein.
Right.
Yeah, well, it's like Graham Parsons.
It's an easy band to hate.
Graham Parsons said, they're too sugary. There's too much sugar on it, because of the perfect vocals and.
But on the other hand,
because he couldn't sing well.
Why do you think it was on the radio?
But on the other hand, they were better than a lot of other bands in that scene. So there were a lot of bands that were just boring in that scene.
Now, a band like Poco I've never listened to a Poco record. And here's another band that's kind of Firefall.
Yeah, Pure Prairie League. I mean, Pure Prairie League.
Well, yeah, we know Amy. We know Firefall from You Are the Woman. A lot of really soft rock. They have other album cuts that are very much like Southern rock. Two of those guys were in the Burrito Brothers, I think. Rick Roberts
But it was adult contemporary at that point.
It was contemporary, but there's a song called Cinderella from Firefall. I didn't know it was them. I said, the guitar playing is great. It's really cool. And the harmony is interesting, vocal arrangement.
Remember when
you never know until you hear an album.
Remember when cable first came to the area, and they had this Nashville network. It was called.
Yeah, I remember.
And Firefall was on this Nashville network show in the 80s, I think. And they were playing a song, and you're right, the guitar playing was amazing.
I bet.
Yep.
There was Rick Roberts and some guy named Jock something.
Jaco Pastorius.
Jock Straporius.
But by the way, the 80s,
Cuppy.
That's when you had music television. It was actually music television. You had the National Network. That was actually the National Network. You had the History Channel that actually showed
14
history.
And pregnant?
You had the Discovery Channel that actually showed stuff that was interesting in Discovery. I mean,
and the Learning Channel where you could actually learn something as opposed to My 600-Pound Life and all these, the Housewives of Atlanta or, all these like. That's dumb. This is why we're a dumb friggin' country.
And I don't want to be negative, but it's just it's an insult to us that there's still an MTV out there. Like, stop calling it MTV.
How long has it been since MTV has not been MTV? It started in the 90s, right?
Since Eddie Trunk came around, I think. Yeah.
Who the fuck is that? I don't know. Who's Eddie Trunk?
Don't pick on my Eddie. He's a great guy.
I've heard his name. I don't know what he looks like. I don't know what he does.
He's the one who can't badmouth anything because it might not get him an interview. So
that's what you say. That's what you say about Mark.
I used to say that about Mark. Like, is there anything you do not like, Mark?
Fabulous.
Right.
Everything's
fabulous. Right, fabulous.
So one time I saw Eddie Trunk, and he was interviewing Lemmy. And they're talking about music, and Eddie Trunk was like, well, that, the Sweet, that group, the Sweet, they were pretty good, right? And Lemmy's like, no, I don't think so. Nah. And he's like, don't you think they had good? Like, no, I don't think so. And it's true because Sweet they had that, like, did you really need that extra high part on top, kind of like Boston? Do you really have to go there?
It was Queen before Queen, maybe.
Yeah. They were good.
I like the Sweet. I thought the Sweet were good. Come on.
I had the greatest hits. I gave it away.
In a nutshell, I'll just be really quick. So Eddie Trunk is from New Jersey. He started as a record store manager, I think, of Sam Goody in the 80s.
Sam Goody guy.
Dover, New Jersey.
That's the second time I heard Sam Goody today.
Okay.
All right,
he moved to WPDH. Do you remember that station in New Jersey? And he did. No. They had a metal show every Friday night.
WDHA.
Wait, no. Where was PDH? I do remember the colors.
I'm sorry,
The
Perry got
DHA.
me. PDH was Poughkeepsie. Sorry, DHA was Dover.
Well,
right.
104 point something. Yeah.
So
Jersey
he did
Rock.
the metal news every Friday night on the metal show on
Oh,
DHA.
shit.
I listened
Okay.
religiously.
Yeah.
I loved it because he would at 12 o'clock come on, and I got to correspond with him because he went to K-Rock and he worked for a while. He did his own metal show. He's worked his ass off. One thing about Eddie, he does kiss ass, but his favorite band of all time is Kiss. He's a Kiss head. Totally.
Yeah, okay.
He would do the Merry Christmas every year on K-Rock.
It's a holic, yeah.
But he found out that Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley were not happy with his criticism of them, especially when they replaced Ace Frehley with a lookalike. They said, as far as we're concerned, we're not going to go on a show. He didn't care. He still criticized them. He knows he'll never interview Gene Simmons.
They will never do an interview with him.
And so I give him that. He did stick to his guns on that, so. But he's a hardworking guy. But, you could look at him as a Kiss ass, but I like him. Anyway, okay.
That's how you get places.
Funny. His favorite group is Kiss, and you just said he's a Kiss ass.
Kiss ass. I don't think he's a Kiss ass, but he does. He does. You know what it is? He interviews as a fan, and that gives the impression that you're trying to kiss the person's ass.
You can't be a fan of everything. You have to dislike something,
Of course.
Oh, if he dislikes something, he says it. I mean, he will, but the only guy in Kiss that he's close to is Ace Frehley for obvious reasons. Yeah.
With a few musics I really don't like. I mean, I can like a lot of stuff. I learned to like a lot of disco. Those horrible songs, those mawkish maudlin things, those syrupy.
Right.
There were
deliberately
some
trying to
songs.
pull your emotions, that kind of stuff. You're like, don't bum me out. Bum yourself out.
Yeah.
There you go.
Get off
Speaking
my
of
cloud.
bumming out, we wanted to talk about a guy that worked with Cream, who unfortunately is no longer with us. Did you want to talk about something about Felix Pappalardi, Lou?
Well, I did, but I want to talk about Cream.
Okay.
In conjunction, because the reason why I want to talk about it, I mean, everyone knows who Cream was.
I'm going to sit back and listen.
Junction. What's your function?
One of my favorite drummer, really overall, is Ginger Baker, and my son is also a big fan. So last night we watched together, which is kind of cool, a little father and son night. It was the making of Disraeli Gears.
Really?
And, yeah. So I mean, I've seen it before, but it had been a while, and I realized that I'd never listened to the whole Cream catalog. So today I did, all the studio albums, and I every time I hear it, I'm more amazed. And this time around, I really focused on Jack Bruce and his role as the bassist, because it's one of those things where he's really slippery, jazzy, but it's just, it's just amazing how, he wrote these songs. He was the main songwriter, really, him and Peter Brown, other collaborators. Yeah. Just how fluid he was, and how he was playing jazz bass in this rock band. And so after we watched the making of Disraeli Gears, and the whole thing, they interview everybody: Ginger Baker, Jack Bruce, Eric Clapton, Ahmet Ertegun is in there.
Is this the one they recorded at Atlantic Studios in New York City?
I don't know where. I don't know the studio. Maybe it was, but it was produced by Felix Pappalardi. He produced their second albums on. The first album was produced by Robert Stigwood.
I've seen that name on a lot of records, Felix Pappalardi.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So, but anyway, so like I just went we all know they were the first super group. So I just went back and listened to the whole studio catalog, and I'm amazed. Last night I was trying to play. I was playing Strange Brew on my headphones with my drum kit, and I'm doing my own rendition of it because I cannot do what Ginger Baker did. And every time I've said this, every time I hear it, it's just something different. It's just what he plays makes sense, but it is almost I can't almost follow it.
He was a
even
double kick,
even the straight ahead stuff,
He was a double kick drummer, though, right?
He's a double kick drummer, but not all the time, But he did that, and back then that was pretty revolutionary for rock and roll too, because that was a jazz drummers thing. Louis Bellson used it at other times, but having gotten through the whole catalog, I was amazed at how powerful. There was a time when I thought the records they sounded very top heavy, very high endy. Yeah, there've been remixes and stuff, but I do think overall the material and the playing. I mean, these were three amazing virtuosos that happened to make very cohesive, for the most part, music. Where, however great each one was, they managed to make all that work.
Now, was Felix Pappalardi the producer on Disraeli Gears, or was it Tom Dowd?
No, it was. I saw Felix Pappalardi.
Okay, yeah, he's listed as producer. And by the way,
Tom Dowd might have engineered it.
Well, it was recorded at Atlantic Studios. That's confirmed.
Disraeli Gears.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Tom Dowd was the recording engineer. I just saw that.
Oh, okay. Got it. Yeah.
Yeah. So imagine being Felix Pappalardi. I mean, he wasn't super known then, but imagine having Tom Dowd as your engineer, and also there's pictures of them together on the documentary.
Yeah.
Where it's like one thing where Tom Dowd was this guy that he had such gravitas as a person, as an engineer, and what they said was Tom Dowd wasn't so much a producer like say George Martin was, but he would make your band sound like it was supposed to sound.
Yeah, he was the master behind the board, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And he was on the Manhattan Project. So cool. But the first album is called Fresh Cream, and it's compared to Disraeli Gears, it's very bluesy, it's very heavy. It's got Toad on it. So your very first album has a drum solo, and I listened to Toad again today. I'm sorry, the guy was just amazing. His timing alone, the tempo on the drum solo. It's so easy to get out of hand and to go that long and just be in total damn control.
That's a sack of shit.
That guy could swing every sack of shit you threw at him. That's the whole thing. He could swing like nobody else. So who could swing like him?
Yeah.
But it's funny because I think the UK the UK and US versions are different as far as the track listing and singles released. So if Spoonful was released in UK as a first single, that's our heavy blues song.
That was on the first album.
Yeah. And I Feel Free was the second single. In America, we're kind of smarter about that. We released I Feel Free.
Yeah.
Which is a great song.
Yes.
It's a cool ending. Cool beginning.
Hard panning to the left and right.
I like the way Ginger Baker comes in on that song too.
Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, very tribal. I mean,
yep.
We could do a whole show on Ginger, But actually, there were albums. It wasn't a big selling record in the U.S. at all. That was produced by Robert Stigwood, who was our manager. It was number 6 in the UK album charts. It didn't. I don't think it charted in America, so I don't think the singles charted.
Maybe not 1966, right?
No, 1966. Yeah. So the second record, Disraeli Gears, that was a bigger. It was getting well known, but that's when Felix Pappalardi came on. But that was number 5 in UK, in Sweden and Finland number 1, in Australia number 1, and in the US actually in the end of 1968 it became number 1 on the US cash box.
Now, what's the track listing on Disraeli Gears? Is this?
Well, hang on a second because I can tell you.
Looks like Mark might be looking it up.
I can tell you too.
Mark might be able to do it quicker. I got my other monitor going.
So I'll run the songs down. Strange Brew, Sunshine of Your Love.
First song of Disraeli Gears is Strange Brew.
Strange Brew.
Second song is like, wow, look where we're going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you got Strange Brew. Actually, that was an Eric Clapton lead vocal, and there's the reason why was because the record company is great. When they first started Cream, I read an interview. Actually, it's a Forbes interview, separate interviews, Forbes magazine with both Jack Bruce and Ginger Baker. And Jack Bruce was saying how he didn't want to be the lead singer, and neither did Clapton. So he goes, it became me.
Yeah,
but
Clapton was a very, very nervous singer. He did not want to sing. I know that,
especially back then. He learned how to. He became a great singer, but the thing was, but Clapton had more of a pop voice.
Yeah.
So when you have like Strange Brew or a Badge, as great Jack Bruce as a singer as he is, or was.
So this is the record you're actually talking about, Disraeli Gears. First 2 songs are fantastic songs.
Yeah. So the first song was Strange Brew. Then what was the second one?
Sunshine of Your Love.
Sunshine of Your Love. Iconic riff.
Both hits. Yeah.
Then it followed with World of Pain, Dance the Night Away, and Blue Condition. That was side 1.
Now, Dance the Night Away that's one of my favorite Cream songs. It's psychedelic pop.
Mm-hmm.
And Blue Condition, that's a Ginger Baker lead vocal.
Yeah.
And
he's a writer too.
He can't help but sound English.
Now, at this point, was Clapton playing his SG at this point mostly?
Who knows?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, let's go.
So side 2 opens one of my favorite Cream songs, "Tales of Brave Ulysses."
Yeah.
Whoa.
And that contains a Jack Bruce descending bass riff that he's utilized throughout a lot of his career compositions.
There's another song he on the same record almost has the same descending bass line.
Pete Brown had was the lyricist on that one also, right?
No, the writers are Clapton and Martin Sharp.
Wow.
Martin Sharp is the guy that did the Disraeli Gears album cover.
Yeah.
And here's my Disraeli Gears pillow.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's supporting my sore back that hurts.
All right. So where are we?
So after that, we go into Swobbler. Swabber.
That's one of my favorites.
That's one of my favorites.
That's
I absolutely love that song.
I do too. Now Pete Brown in the documentary called that SWA or SWLABR. He didn't call it swallober.
And it's supposed to stand for
She walks like a bearded.
She walks like a bearded mustache or something, right?
I
thought it was rainbow, but
and the
rainbow has a beard.
Yeah,
the rainbow has a beard.
The story goes, it's somebody comparing themselves beauty wise to the Mona Lisa, and the jealousy, henceforth the disfiguring of the Mona Lisa. But the picture has a mustache.
That song. That song's fantastic. Yeah,
and the way Ginger comes in every time is different. It's just like the guy was just genius. I played that song with my brothers in Follow-Sinian. That was one of the most fun songs to play. And,
nice. It continues with a Jack Bruce song called "We're Going Wrong."
Mm-hmm.
Then "Outside Woman Blues" by Blind Joe Reynolds, arranged by Clapton.
Mm-hmm.
"Take It Back," and it finishes with "Mother's Lament," traditional song arranged by Bruce, Clapton, and Baker.
Yeah, they did a lot of those. Like when they did these Robert Johnson songs, they rearranged these these old blues numbers. Yeah,
but they always gave credit to the original.
Of course,
that's what's important.
When a Strange Brew was written by Clapton, Felix Pappalardi, and a woman named Gail Collins, who we'll touch upon later.
Yeah,
in this story,
the wife of
yeah. So now, just really good. I think that's people. I think people may think that's not the ultimate Cream record. I think that's one people most recognize because of that album cover.
Yeah, and that was '67, correct?
Yeah. Now compared to the first record, Pete Brown and Felix Pappalardi co-wrote a lot of the material. On the first record, there's Pete Brown's on some of it, but there's a whole bunch of other writers on that. So I think by the time Disraeli Gears, that Pete Brown, Jack Bruce partnership or whatever was starting to become a little more gelled. So the cover is by Martin Sharp, who co-wrote Tales of Brave Ulysses.
Yep.
Third record, Wheels of Fire, third album in 1968. That's a 2-record set. So one was studio and one was live at the Fillmore.
That was a massive album.
Fillmore East. Yeah. That was their first #1 U.S. album. So it was #1 in the U.S. and Canada and Australia.
Really?
Yeah, it was #3 in the UK, so that was the first record that did better in the US than it did in their own country. It's the world's first platinum-selling double album, and Rolling Stone calls it its number 205 on the 500 greatest album list of all time. So the singles are White Room. White Room's a classic.
Oh yeah.
And the beginning is in 5/4 timing. Boom, diddle, doon, doon. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Bound, doon. And he said Atlantic Records had a hard time with the idea of that. Jack Bruce said, so because I guess either they wanted something in 4/4 timing, which is interesting.
Is that jazz timing or something? Or
well, I mean, Take 5 by Dave Brubeck. That's 5/4 timing.
Yeah.
So is the and Don't Fear the Reaper, that break do 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 before the guitar solo. That's 5/4 timing.
I'm proud to say that the copy I have of Dave Brubeck given to me by Mark Smith. Thank you, sir.
Great album, one of the best jazz albums ever
released.
And
for 1959, sounds fantastic. Anyway, sorry, Lou Cream.
Also another song in 5/4 timing is I just lost my train here. We mentioned Dave Brubeck.
You're on the third Cream album.
No, Money by Pink Floyd. Anyway, that's another song. That's a rock song that's in 5, except for the guitar solo.
Yeah, guitar solo goes the 4/4 time. Yeah. And when Pink Floyd did their greatest hits and they couldn't get the original recording, Dave Gilmour played drums and he was able to handle that, the 5/5 and the 4/4. Yeah. So it shows that David Gilmour is a competent drummer.
Yeah, right. And also it also shows the pain in the assness of having to count in your head while you're playing an instrument. Because he said that the whole thing with doing the verses of Money, is that he had to kind of can't go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5
without a click track. Yeah,
you most likely without a click track and a steady drummer.
Yeah,
he goes. I was so grateful to go into the guitar solo in 4/4 timing and not have to go count in your head. So I find that maddening. People say, "Lou, it's in 8/16." I'm like, I understand that, but I don't want to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Just like while I'm trying to be creative, it's just too robotic.
You sound like Fred Schneider from B-52.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Tin roof rusted.
It's in 37-second time.
Are you Gilbert Godfrey?
I don't know. So Wheels of Fire. So the single White Room was a single. What a great song. Crossroads. That's a live track.
That's Robert Johnson. Yeah.
You know what amazes me about that? I used to say, wow, for a band that jammed, it's such a concise, powerful song. But then they said that you can obviously hear an edit. It was a lot longer because if you listen at the end of his guitar solo, it kind of chops. So I think they did play it for a lot longer. Yeah. Listen closely, you'll hear.
So you're saying that they did a splice for the radio for the album?
Yeah, or for the record. Yeah, because you'll hear like he's like it's just very abrupt if you listen close. So I think it was probably like another 10-minute song, probably.
Cool. Now, So do you have the track listing for the whole? Wheels of Fire. Wheels of Fire.
Oh, absolutely.
Not to be confused with the band.
Oh, okay.
The band.
So it's White Room, followed by Sitting on Top of the World, which is a great version.
Mm-hmm.
Passing the Time, Ginger Baker song.
Yeah.
As You Said, Jack Bruce song.
You guys listen. That is a weird song. It could almost been done today.
Really?
It's almost like a raga, and the vocal. I said, is that Ginger or is that Jack Bruce? But
it's Jack Bruce composition. So it's
him singing. It's him singing, but it's a weird. It's a different kind of vocal from him.
Why? So why do you call it a raga? It's Indian. It sounds like an Indian influence song.
It's very acoustic. It's got a very acoustic. It's almost like this '90s alt strum, just recorded differently. And I can't recall the lyrics, but the melody is just different. It's almost drony, but it's not almost. It's something. It's kind of very in the '60s, but it could also have been part of like maybe the whole Paisley underground.
Well, think about
Paisley
the time
resurgence.
too, 67, 68, right?
Well, but it's not cliched or anything like that. It sounds like I heard it that. So this sounds very fresh.
Yeah,
it should have been on Fresh Cream.
Fresh. Don't be fresh, Lou. Side 2 starts with, I think, one of the best 2 songs, like going from one to the other. It starts with Pressed Rat and Warthog, and it goes into Politician. That's a great twofer right there.
Pressed Rat and Warthog?
Yeah,
it's spoken word. Ginger is, for such an angry guy, he's got a very soft voice.
Pressed Rat and Warthog.
Yeah.
Yes, he does. Goes into Those Were the Days. I have to re-listen to this. I don't remember that.
The days, my friend. We thought.
No, not that song because it's credited to Baker.
Right.
Well, that song's a Russian folk song that was used by Paul McCartney and to produce what's her name.
Melanie was Mary Hopkins.
Then we move into one of my favorites, Born Under a Bad Sign.
Yeah, and that's also good. That's a cover.
Yeah,
that's an old blues song. Yeah.
Booker T. Jones. Yeah, and then the studio album finishes with Deserted Cities of the Heart. That's a good song.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Booker T. Jones was very instrumental in getting Atlantic Records and Ahmet Ertegun to let these guys just kind of be.
Yeah.
Let
them do what they do. Yeah.
Let them do what they do. I think now Booker T. might have been the guy that said, White Room, that beginning. He's like, he walked in. They're recording White Room. Booker T. goes, it's a hit single. That's a hit single. Well, Ahmet Ertegun just as amazing as a musician, set of ears the guy had. He just didn't get it.
I said this on one of our old shows about like when Cream shows up at Atlantic Studios, and he's got like Marshall stacks of amplifiers. They're like, what are we going to do with this?
Yeah.
But they recorded it, and that's why you get that Cream sound.
Oh, yeah.
That.
Yeah.
I guess that was the way that it had to be done.
Yes.
And they even said, like, in that studio, like, other people would come in. You didn't hear shit. Cream came in, you heard him 3 blocks away in the studio.
Yeah, yep.
Which is part of the became part of the problem with Cream, actually.
Yeah.
And I think if that could Spinal Tap into almost every garage band in America when you're in I mean, I had the same thing. Bands, we were in, I was in, you were in. We're too fucking loud in here, Your stage volume's too loud.
It's the biggest mistake so many bands make. Let's make everything louder than everything else.
Let's not utilize dynamics that we've learned. Yeah, let's just crank it up. Yeah.
And what artists like the band knew is that, and Miles Davis has said, they took their cues from Miles Davis's live set.
Yeah.
Your stage volume, everyone can hear each other. The singer is not screaming. It's you punish everybody else who came to see you.
Yeah.
Right.
Pummel the audience with sound.
And Cream only made 4 or 5 albums. That was it, right?
Yeah, there was a Fresh Cream, Just Really Gears, Wheel of Fire, and Goodbye.
Yeah,
4. So there were 4 studio albums.
That was it.
In a very short amount of time, though.
Yeah, and of course that live.
What's that?
The live at the Royal Albert Hall farewell thing, right?
Basically, those came out in the 70s, though. They came out live after.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Interestingly, the studio album of Wheels of Fire, Felix Pappalardi played the viola, bells, organ, trumpet, and a tonette. So he played a lot of stuff on it.
Yeah, he's a musician. He's a musician, right?
Yeah. He was a producer musician. Now, Wheels of Fire was also released as 2 single LPs: Wheels of Fire Studio and Live at the Fillmore. So initially it was a double. It was a double album release, both, and then they separated the 2
individually. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, Atlantic wanted to do that for cash flow. Yeah,
that's a ripoff because people who bought Wheels of Fire. Anyway, the live album, of course, we know Crossroads, but I think Spoonful. I know, not everyone's a fan of long jams. That is one of the most intense 16 minutes and 47 seconds of jamming.
No, that is entirely too long. It's entirely too long.
I know what you mean, but at the same time, I don't think it. I listened to everything today. I didn't get tired of anything. Nothing wore on me. I'm surprised.
Wow.
I thought, given the times it came out, maybe perspectives had changed and stuff like that. But I think just the playing alone and
I have a short attention span.
I hear you. I understand that.
Because of my iPhone, I have a short attention span.
Of course. And all the sugar you've eaten in your life.
A Spoonful to me, it reminds me of a John Coltrane jam.
Spoonful of Adderall.
Spoonful's like you ever listen to the jam John Coltrane does on My Favorite Things? That's 16 Minutes of Bliss to me. It just goes and gets more intense. Spoonful reminds me totally of a John Coltrane. It's they were lockstep in with each other.
And Jack Bruce loved that stuff, and probably Ginger too. Yeah.
I think when they all speak about the music, I heard in retrospect, I don't know if it was Clapton maybe, or somebody was saying, it was all fucking bombast and horse shit. Yeah, it really wasn't. And there were times I'm like, I love Cream, but then there were times with classic rock, I was like, fuck it, what it was pretentious, endless virtuosity.
That's how it got to me with Sunshine of Your Love and White. I didn't want to hear it for another couple of decades.
Sure,
yeah.
But not, now that I do, I think their virtuosity was not overblown.
No.
And I'm not a big guy in long jams. I'm not a big guy in jam bands, but listening to this, I mean, it's to me it was a learning experience too. I just don't know. And I got to say, Bruce said something, and when he goes, he thinks Clapton really hit his peak in Cream as a player. And I agree.
Me too.
I mean, Clapton became refined. He can do anything, Yeah. But the thing is, as far as the stuff he was playing, and even on the reunion concert, Clapton's not playing the same. He's playing for a little Fender Twin reverb.
Well, he's Clapton. There's the thing. He was playing a Fender Stratocaster now.
Yeah.
He was not a Gibson guy anymore. He was a Strat guy, and not a Marshall guy anymore. He's playing
Blackie through a Fender amp.
The Clapton that came out for the Cream reunion was the same Clapton that came out with Steve Winwood for that tour. It's the comfortable Clapton. He's in a point in his life where he's not going to push it. He's got immense talent. But he's comfortable. Well, he was also comfortable in the 70s. That's where a lot of people knock him, because in the 70s he got very laid back.
But I mean, think about it. When they did that Royal Albert Hall reunion, what did you think? He was going to break out that psychedelic SG, and start playing that thing.
I think he might have gone for a heavier sound. But it's kind of funny because, as far as that concert goes, I was amazed at Jack Bruce, and he's the kind of guy that said, He could get lost in the mix because a bass player, he's playing foundational, but the guy's playing virtuosity. without sticking it in your face.
To me, guys who can play a fretless bass, man, like Rick Danko.
I saw a couple shows. He played a fretless. He played one that had frets. It looked like a violin bass, and the other one he played the fretless.
Yeah.
And but I got to say, as far as the Cream reunion concerts, I was Ginger Baker's playing differently. But he's still fucking brilliant. He's still a goddamn genius.
To me, it was Dinky though with his Stratocaster. Stratocaster's a Dinky guitar.
I agree, Perry. I thought his part of the sound could have had a little more balls, a little more low. It kind of bluesy grit.
Instead of true overdrive, he had some kind of pedal going with the overdrive, and because again, he doesn't push it like he used to.
But how many years after the fact was it? 30 years after the fact.
Well, 2005 was the concert.
40 years after the fact, right?
What's great about that concert? What's great about that concert is watching Ginger Baker looking at Clapton. You see love in his face, right?
Yes,
Lou,
he does.
Did you notice
that? He was. And funny, Louis and I were watching. We watched Beware Mr. Baker, and Louis like, Jesus, And I'm like, hey, it's who he was. But you see, Ginger's smiling a lot during the concert. He was smiling. Yeah. But Ginger always spoke very lovingly about the music of Cream. He loved that band. He's wearing a Cream T-shirt. He's the guy with this shirt that says Cream on it.
So Felix Pappalardi is also a bass player, right?
Yes, but
he was.
But there's Cream Goodbye.
Oh, their final album.
But,
right. Which to me, I got to tell you something. Of their whole catalog, it's probably the one I love it. I don't say I don't like it, but it's the one I would play the least. The other three to me are better.
I think so too. Critically, it was. Some people said it was kind of an incomplete album, but like guys like Robert Christgau, who's Unforgiving, says it's their best work. J.D. Considine thought it was exquisite studio work, and he's the guy that wrote SHT.
They changed their minds too. Robert Christgau gave.
There's always a retrospect, yeah. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, he trashed fucking MC5's debut album. Then he realized it's fantastic. Decades later, he realized I was wrong, man. That is a great record.
Yeah.
I think the biggest problem with Goodbye is it's their last album, and they have 3 live cuts and 3 studio cuts. Why didn't they do a whole studio album?
Is that a Felix Pappalardi production also?
Yeah. Everything.
He was their guy, right?
Except for the first record was Robert Stigwood. Yeah. This record was something where they announced, I think before the Wheels of Fire came out, they announced their retirement. Robert Stigwood said they're disbanding. That's when they did the farewell tour, et cetera, ending at the Royal Albert Hall. Right. That was the last show. Actually, that might have been the first farewell tour. Where they said this is goodbye.
Yeah, that was their last waltz. Yeah.
It was, but you look at the farewell tours now, Elton John, all these other people, hey, we'll be back. Goodbye. Maybe that was
by the way,
yeah.
The album was only 30 minutes long too.
Yeah.
That's another, short album.
What was the big song from Goodbye?
Badge.
Bridge. Yeah, the song called Bridge.
Yeah.
That's the one that sounds like George Harrison. In fact, is that Leangelo Misterioso?
He is credited as it. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Felix
sounds
Pappalardi,
like a George Harrison song to me.
Of course it does. Yeah. Sure. But that was the pop Cream that Atlantic Records and Ahmet Ertegun wanted to promote because it's all about money. I mean, it's a business. Yeah. Even as much as record companies, they would nurture you back then. That was so cool about it. But Bruce Springsteen, if you don't make one out, if your first album tanks, goodbye. You have to pay for it.
Yeah.
Bruce Springsteen had 3 records before he had his chance at a smash.
Right.
But now Ahmet Ertegun did something with them, and he said to them, he goes, "You've got to make one more record for me. You got to make one more record." And they're like, "Why?" He said, "Jerry Wexler has cancer and he's dying, and he wants to hear one more record." So they made Goodbye, and it was a lie. So he said Jerry Wexler is okay.
Oh,
really?
So you mentioned Ahmet Ertegun asking someone earlier on about making one more record.
And so this is why they delivered that last record?
It didn't seem like a contractual obligation. It seemed like something that they did, just to, they knew they were going to make money on it.
You know what I think Ahmet Ertegun was very smart. I mean, we love Ahmet Ertegun because he supported the musicians, but he was also a businessman. So, as far as the 70s, Ahmet Ertegun saw Prague dying. That's why he got Yes to record one more album, and he got ELP because he said, "I just got to get another album out of these guys." But and then he saw Cream imploding, and he said, "Just one more album." He wanted to get that album. It's money, you know.
Yeah, sure. But even still, like even before that, I'm surprised at some of the comments they made about him, because White Room. The first time I heard White Room, I'm a child. I'm like, this is like the Roman gladiators thing. Yeah. As a child, I knew this, and we all did. I mean, every time the first time I heard White Room, be like, holy shit, you know, he didn't get it. I mean, which shows you. I mean, doesn't mean obviously the guy doesn't have a bad ear. I mean, the guy was brilliant, but how something like that could have hit someone else like you, me, Perry, or anybody, and not hit him, who was like the head of a record company. And saying, you know, the people aren't going to buy this. You know, maybe the Supremes were happening at that time.
Well, maybe when
and, they were kind of, you know, wondrous music, but the fact that some band comes out with that first chord is just like, that's so cinematic to me. It's
well, maybe when we were 12, he was 40. You know, so,
he also produced the beat. Those guys, age didn't matter with a lot of those people. I don't think it mattered.
No, not right. But look what you're saying though. Like, you know, one more record. Just give me one more record. Just give me one more record. It's a business.
Yeah. Well, of course,
you know.
Course. But
the ears don't matter at that point if you just want to give me
it doesn't
one
matter.
More record.
I'm just personally shocked as that a guy like Ahmet Ertegun didn't get White Room.
Yeah. Well, nobody gets everything.
Nobody picks it. Exactly. Some people say that's not a hit single. John Mellencamp didn't think Jack and Diane was a hit single, and I wouldn't have either, because I hate that song. I've never liked it.
So do I.
But the fact is, you know, Don Gaiman said, no, you were all wrong. Yeah. And the producer has the power to do that.
Yeah.
You know, he's the liaison with the record company. So Jack and Diane got recorded.
Yeah. See, in fact, we'll talk about it next week.
Yeah.
I was going to say with Ahmet Ertegun. All right, with Ahmet Ertegun, he was great at being patient with a band. Would not have achieved what they achieved if he hadn't given those 3 albums to get their shit together, among many other bands.
Well, yeah.
So then when he turns around,
back then.
But he was one, even back then, though, he was known as one of the most patient guys. But then when he would turn around and say to you, all right, guys, I know that you're kind of falling off the cliff, but I need one more album. They did it for him.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So before we go to Felix Pappalardi, everyone knows Cream was made up of Ginger Baker, Jack Bruce, and Eric Clapton. Mm-hmm. You know, Eric Clapton needs no mention. Right. It just doesn't. But Ginger Baker, he was rock's first superstar drummer. He used 2 bass drums. One was a 24-inch, one was a 22-inch. The one on his left leg was a 24. Modern Drummer Hall of Fame 2008, Classic Drummer Hall of Fame 2016. He said one of classic rock's first influential drumming superstars of the 60s. One of the classic rock, he invented the classic rock drum solo. Toad set the example for Bonham and everyone else. And Bonham, he said something about Bonham. He goes, he liked Led Zeppelin. He thought Jimmy Page was a good guitar player. He goes, Bonham's just very stiff. He had praise for his technique, but not his swing or his feel or anything else. But I get it. Led Zeppelin was more plodding along. They had more of a heavy, sludgy sound. Ginger didn't like heavy metal. He's credited with inventing part of the style, which is total bullshit. But he despised the form.
He was a heavy drummer.
Yeah, a heavy drummer. Modern Drummer called him one of classic rock's first influential drumming stars of the 60s. All music, the most influential percussionists of the 60s. Every heavy metal drummer had some influence on him. He had an influence on Drum Magazine, among the 50 most important drummers of all time. One of the most imitated 60s drummers. Forever changed the face of rock music. And Rolling Stone reads his poll the 3rd greatest drummer in rock and roll, which is not just enough. But I got a good quote here from Neil Peart. Is it Peart?
Oh, you said it right the first time, Peart.
Yeah, I guess I did. I told my son not to listen
to me.
It's
Peart. Get it through your thick
skull. You said don't listen to
it's
your father.
It's Neil Peart.
It's Neil Peart, and he plays YYZ.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, whatever.
So Neil of Rush said his playing was revolutionary, extrovert, primal, and inventive. He set the bar for what rock drumming could be. Every rock drummer since has been influenced in some way by Ginger, even if they don't know it. I can attest to that.
Okay.
So yeah, but he sang a couple songs. He was a composer. Eric Clapton said he was a fully realized musician. He came to Cream complete. And Jack Bruce, after watching some of these videos and listening to him, the guy was amazing. He's also rated highly amongst rock bassists, influential. Geddy Lee spoke the moon about him. I mean, Rush loved Cream. Neil Peart loved Cream. So did Alex Lifeson.
Probably be the first. Nah, they probably give it to John Entwistle. I considered him one of the first virtuoso bass players in rock and roll.
He is considered that, yeah. Well, it's funny. He rated other bass players. He thought John Entwistle was good, too loud, which is kind of funny considering Jack Bruce was known for volume. Roger Waters,
completely different players, Entwistle and Jack Bruce.
Oh yeah.
Now
Roger Waters said probably the most musically gifted bass player who's ever been.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he is very musical.
Yeah, very, very musical. And the live show from the reunion tour, I forgot the name of the song that they're playing. It's a blues shuffle. They're playing amazingly, and Jack Bruce is playing bass and doing harmonica on it, and it was just amazing.
Yeah,
but yeah, so I was kind of cool, like, you know, as a band I loved as a kid, and my older brother had the records, and that's how I know them, and the radio. To like step back and then go back in and listen to the recorded catalog. These guys it was amazing. What a rich period. And like I said, three virtuosos who could, even though they all had egos, they could manage to make that stuff all work without one overshadowing the other. It's a much well-worn statement, but you could really say they were ahead of their time. Really, because they were psychedelic when they were psychedelic, like other bands were not psychedelic. They had great pop. Yeah. There was so much fucking talent in that band, you know? Yeah. Yeah. And someone said, like, I forget the other band they compared them to, but they said there were very few bands to this day that still had that kind of power. And that power came across in those old recordings too. So, yeah. But as we were mentioning, like, you know, I wonder who produced all that stuff. And it was a guy named Felix Pappalardi. Who, by the way, can I just say before you talk about him? Yeah. He took... he had the style of bass playing. Some of those mountain songs were Jack Bruce. It sounded like Jack Bruce was in the band. Yeah. Yes, they did. Yeah. I think there was the heavy influence there. So he was a producer, songwriter, vocalist, bassist. He was in Mountain. He was a Mississippi Queen. They were known for the big hits. He's the bass player on Mississippi Queen. Yes, he is. Yeah, with Corky Lang. Corky Lang was a Canadian on drums. Oh. He was a staff producer for Atlantic Records. That's how the Cream connection came to be. So through them, one thing leads to another. Leslie West, he produced some Leslie West stuff in Leslie West's first solo band, and the idea was for Felix to join Mountain, produce it, which he also produced Mountain, so he produced Mississippi Queen, and they were a one-hit wonder. No. Well, maybe they were, but they had songs like Nantucket Sleigh Ride, Theme from an Imaginary Western, which I listened to with my son. Is that Felix singing it or is that Leslie West? I don't know. But when Louis and I were listening, he goes, "It sounds like Cream," and it's a Jack Bruce and Pete Brown composition. Yeah. So that's the kind of the crossover you were mentioning, Perry. And I always thought it was Jack Bruce when I was young. I assumed it was him. Yeah, I thought that was Cream until my brother kind of said, "No, that's that." So he was married to a woman named Gail Collins, who ultimately in 1983 she killed him. He was like 42. He bought her a Derringer as a gift. She ended up ending his life. Whatever the interpersonal stuff I won't even get into. But anyway, it was kind of a great talent snuffed out pretty soon. But she was known, Gail Collins Pappalardi. She wrote several songs with Cream. She co-wrote Strange Brew and World of Pain. She did album artwork for Mountain, and she was an associate producer on Hot Tuna Records. So she had a legitimate musical career as a lyricist. Some of those lyrics seem kind of dark, actually. But yeah, so whatever the argument was, Felix Pappalardi, producer, and I think he's kind of like a guy. I don't know. You don't read a whole lot about him. She plugged him in the neck with a Derringer. That's like a small musket ball. That's not a high-powered gun, but. So that's how. And what became of her? Did she go to jail for life, or I think she got like a small sentence. She was charged with second-degree murder and was found guilty of the lesser criminally negligent homicide. Yeah, there might have been some details that are not released. I don't know if she was defending herself or maybe not. I don't know. Yeah, I remember reading that in Rolling Stone, going, "Oh, Felix Pappalardi, that's the guy I saw on those Cream records." I used to hang out with people who had, the album was called Nantucket Sleigh Ride, I think. Yeah. You know what I mean? You used to see the records all the time, and always saw that name, Felix Pappalardi, in there. Yeah. Yep. Reading the liner notes after smoking a big doobie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, and listening to this with an 18-year-old kid, we're listening to his music, and I'm listening for Louis' take on it, and he said he thought it sounded kind of like Procol Harum. Like theme,
sure.
that kind of that loping along.
A lot of influence, sure. Yeah, cross influence. Yep.
Yeah. But I got to say, I'm very pleased with the fact that after all was said and done, that listening to those Cream records, I was completely enthralled. I was enthralled the whole time. I was bopping around the house doing shit, but also sitting and listening. And I said, this music was fucking rich.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I gotta say, my personal memory with Felix was Mountain opened for Triumph at the Meadowlands Arena, and it was like a year after Felix was shot and killed. And Leslie West had a little speech about Felix and the effing see you next Tuesday that took his life, and he just went off on Gail.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the whole place, they're an opening band, but it was New Jersey.
Wow.
The whole place stood up and cheered. Yeah. And then they played theme from Imaginary Western in honor of him, and they kind of almost stole the show from Triumph,
Really?
Yeah.
Now, is it implied that maybe Gail kind of got away with it a little more than she should have?
Well, you claim that she was, being maybe, he was pushing her or whatever, and that's what the lawyers do,
Yeah.
So,
well, instead of throwing a knife at him, she shot him. So okay.
Yeah, or hit him in the head with a heavy glass ashtray.
Yeah.
Before we get out of that, I did read 2 Forbes interviews, Forbes magazine, one with Jack Bruce and one with Ginger Baker. And Jack Bruce, he's really cool. He's like very self-deprecating, but he talks about he was never considered himself a sellout. He was always there for the music. Clapton was the guy. Clapton was into the fashion. So he said when they were talking about getting perms, you told Clapton, he goes, "You get your hair permed. I'm not doing that."
Oh yeah, he had a bouffant at that one period.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. He had a poodle head.
Yeah.
But he's definitely more of a musical purist. I mean, Clapton's a blues purist too, but Clapton's a pop star. Where it's just the way it was.
But he respects his roots.
Yeah. But he talks about just talking about the music and the writing. And someone said that he goes, "Do you feel like you're one of the world's greatest bass players?" And he goes, "Yeah, but not in a way that was egotistical. Like the guy has earned that right to feel that way." And and after watching him playing, maybe 8 years before he died, I said he was an amazing bass player, like such quality. And the fact that he was playing like a jazz guy in this hard rock is just it's amazing. That couldn't have happened again. Someone said, I forgot his name, was like Jim Cross maybe or something. He goes, Could you picture another guitarist or lead guitarist playing Cream? He goes, no other 3 people could have done that. No other 3 individual players could not have done that, even and have it sound like that. It just wouldn't. It couldn't have happened. It was just serendipitous.
Yeah. It's interesting to know Jack Bruce was a Scotsman. He was from Scotland.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've ever heard it, but I have the vinyl of his debut solo album, Songs for a Tailor. It's fantastic. Fantastic.
Well,
give it a spin. Give it a listen on Spotify.
Okay, I will. I'm sure it is. The guy was just so, like Roger Waters said, he was just so musically rich and talented.
Yeah. And that album has the original version of the theme for an Imaginary Western.
On it, so. I have heard that. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
The Ginger Baker article, it was interesting because he was very insightful, wasn't irascible. He was just describing the difficulties with the record companies back then, where they all said that for Cream they would have gone on further had they had a chance to say, like Genesis could go off into the countryside for 3 months and write some amazing material. Cream never. They were part of that thing. They never had that opportunity. Robert Stigwood was that old manager where
they were part of the machine.
They grind it. And Ahmet Erdogan basically at that point knew they were going to leave and said, "Give me another record."
Yep.
Yeah.
But it's a shame. It's a shame when that happens, because what could have been, if they stayed together, and maybe Clapton would have ended up with a whole different career. Could have affected his solo career.
Sure,
he wouldn't have gone off the deep end in the early 70s when he was hooked to heroin.
Yeah,
maybe if
that would have happened anyway with Clapton.
I don't know. He might have been busier. You don't know.
It would have happened anyway.
You can't say that. You can't say that.
Yeah,
I think that if Cream had stayed together, his career would have been different. His solo career, I think, it would have been
Cream
a little
could
heavier.
not stay together. There were 3 different personalities. They're lucky they got 4 albums out of them.
Louis bringing up.
Well,
Lou was bringing up the whole like the thing where they're in the machine. Maybe if they were allowed to take a pause, you know.
The fact, I mean, there were big minds in there.
No.
I think maybe they could have had a bit of a longer.
No. Clapton and the Yardbirds, Clapton and the Blues Breakers. Clapton is not sitting still for Cream. You know what I mean? It's not. That's
not
probably
happen. True.
Yeah.
I think if they had been
left
left alone, they could have done something else.
I think the point was that there might have been maybe 2 more albums out of them.
Two legitimate. Not with Eric Clapton. No way.
Well, I think so. No, because I was reading with the interview with Ginger Baker. What's good? We're talking about this. They were sick of the whole thing at that point. They were sick of the fact it wasn't the music. They loved it. They all loved the music. The fact that Clapton said during a gig, he goes to Ginger, he goes, "I'm sick of this," and Ginger said, "So am I." Yeah. They couldn't get anything done. Now it's funny because Ginger, known for his fiery temperament, he said Jack Bruce could be a very Jekyll and Hyde type character, very soft, very easygoing, and then turn on you.
Yep.
But I think the whole volume thing, Baker said, he goes, "I hated the loud volume then." He goes, "I hate it now." He goes, "That's why we're all fucking deaf."
Yeah.
But I think that was Bruce. If you look at the live thing from 2005, Bruce has got the stacks. Clapton's got the Fender Twin that's being mic'd at Madison Square Garden or the Royal Hall.
Yeah.
But Ginger said the rehearsals for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, they all did it. They didn't want to go. They didn't want to do it. But once they get there, they get caught up into it. He goes, the rehearsals were magic. That was Ginger's thing. They were magic.
Yeah. Was that before the tour, the Reform tour?
Yes. They were inducted in '93, I think.
Okay.
But he said, Ginger said after the Rock and Roll induction, Clapton's goes, "We got to do a reunion. We have to do an album." So I think Eric knocking the music after that, going to Delaney and Bonnie and Blind Faith, who Ginger got his way in there because you don't say no to him. I think that was a lot of ways of just separating yourself and saying, because there's no way. He listens to those old Cream records. Come on.
Well, I'll say 2 things right now. I think Cream could have done a couple more albums, and REM will reunite. REM will reunite.
I disagree. REM is not reuniting, and Cream could not have done. Anyway, look, I've got 2 things left. If you want to move on,
I think they could have had 2 more records. Mark. I wonder if Michael Stipe can sing. He's been working on a solo record forever.
That's a good point.
He has a solo record. He has 2 solo records out. Michael Stipe. He can sing. Sure.
I read he said he doesn't sing anymore.
I've got a little bit of trivia and a little bit of Glen Campbell and David Gates.
Wait, I forgot something. It's part of Cream.
While you're looking for it, I think Lou, you have a book in you, a book that talks about Cream and Mountain and Felix Pappalardi. Just let it flow like a historical fiction. I think that's cool.
I would love that.
Yeah.
And Ginger
By the way,
Baker's
the piano in Badge is Felix Pappalardi.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, check this out.
What is that? You're going to get blocked. What is it?
It's a commercial they did for Falstaff beer.
Oh,
wow.
Okay.
It's Falstaff Thirst Slaker.
Sounds like Strange Brew.
Strange
Brew.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Was he singing Falstaff?
Falstaff. It's the
cool.
beer slaker.
That's cool.
All right, I got a little trivia. You want some trivia, or do you want me to go to David Gates and Glen Campbell singing a couple of Red songs?
How about some trivia? And then we'll David Gates. Wow. How about some trivia?
All right, here's some trivia. Bruce Springsteen never had a #1 hit. His biggest hit was #2. Can you name that #2 hit that Bruce Springsteen had?
Dancing in the Dark.
Born in the USA.
Mark Smith, right on. Dancing in the Dark was his #2 hit.
Wow.
First single off the album, too, I think.
He actually wrote a #1 hit. Can you guess the #1 hit he wrote that somebody else recorded?
Because of the Night? No. Fire.
Blinded by the light. Wrapped up like
that was a number hit for Man from Man's Earth Band?
Yeah.
That's crap.
Yep. All right, here's another one. Speaking of hits,
Direct.
Bob Dylan never had a #1 hit. His highest charting single was #2 in the U.S. and #4 in the U.K. 1965. Can you name that song?
All on. Oh no.
Like Rolling Stone.
Lou Colicchio, right arm, man. Out of state gravy. That was it. Yeah.
Ding.
Like a Rolling Stone.
Out of state gravy.
Biggest hit. Yep.
Number 2.
Number 2. Biggest hit Bob Dylan ever had.
In 65, but the fact that he went on forever after that.
Yeah.
Can you name the one hit Leon Russell really had?
Tightrope.
Leon Russell. Number 11 hit on Billboard Hot 100 and number 10 hit on Cashbox.
Tightrope.
I'm gonna go with Lou on that tightrope.
Lou Colicchio. I'm up on the spotlight.
Yeah.
That is a great song.
It like rubberneck giraffe.
She looked into my pants.
My pants?
Maybe you're just too blind to see. And you know what's the flip side of that song?
Wait,
flip side, the B side.
A song for you? No.
This Masquerade, and it became a number 1 hit for George Benson in 1976.
Leon Russell.
George Benson covered that. Yeah, Leon Russell wrote that. Yeah, yep.
I love George Benson's version of that.
Me too.
Yeah.
He's George Benson wasn't really slick, but I kind of liked him on Broadway.
He was slick, but he was slick, but he still had a foot in traditional jazz. That's what I like about him.
Yeah, jazz pop. Yeah,
jazz pop. Yeah, better than Chuck Mangione.
Well, anyway, I have 3 clips of Glen Campbell, David Gates on the Glen Campbell show,
David Gates of Bread.
David Gates of Bread singing. I don't know. Let's just see what happens. We'll know the song if it plays. Yeah.
Okay, you start it out, and I'll join you. Okay.
Oh yeah,
those chords.
Yeah.
Love those open chords.
Beautiful.
These guys are talented, man.
Yeah.
Great little chord there.
And look at the camera. Look at the camera, Dave.
Yeah, really.
Ovation guitars, by the way. They're both playing Ovation guitars. But it's not like David, he's being a puppy. The director, when they were doing it, blocking it, the director says, don't forget to look at the camera, Dave.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So he's not being a puppy. He's not being a puppy dog, like trying to be cute or anything. It's, you got to look at the camera.
Yeah. Right.
That's a band I've come to appreciate more as far as soft rock.
Me too.
Yeah.
I thought they were faceless. I thought they were just some stupid pop band. And then
here's what I
like
love
our
about
friend Scott McLean.
here's what I love about them is like I love those open chords when you play those kind of those breezy chords. Let's see if this happens. Go, Glenn, go! Yeah. What a voice. Now watch when they both sing. They're both great.
But I just can't live without your love and affection.
Oh yeah.
Giving me direction like a guide.
Perfect.
To help me through my darkest hour.
Yeah, man.
It sounds in a different key than the recorded version because Glen Campbell's singing it.
Probably. Yeah.
But here's the
thing. It just shows the adaptability of it.
Here's what I love is when I got to sing. You can't be afraid to use a falsetto voice. To be a guy and sing in a falsetto voice. Like Brian Wilson. Beautiful. Here it goes.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. Oh man, I'll tell you.
Great chords right there.
Wow.
Sometimes those songs take great how he transitioned to that, right? Where it came down. Right?
They go from your
one
head
of my favorite
They go from your head
favorite
voice to the
chords is this
falsetto
one.
and back.
Yeah.
That. those kind of chords. Just
Yeah,
lonely.
Yeah. Yeah, when you play them in a different position, they ring more. Yeah. I used to play. I like playing A's like that. Yep.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Baby, I'ma want you, baby. You know, sometimes when I hear those things, it takes me back to like 1972.
Of course.
You know what I mean? Like, oh man, I'm. You know.
Yep. It's funny because that part when you went to falsetto, it's a very strong falsetto because you almost can't hear Glen Campbell.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they were both. I think they were both doing it at that point.
Okay. Now, who's the keyboard player? Was it Larry Knechtel that ended up joining Bread?
I think. Well, Larry Knechtel may have been the bass player in Bread.
Was it bass? It was bass. One of the wrecking crew joined Bread. That's pretty heavy.
For a tour, I don't know that he was like.
I think he's on guitar. I think he's on some recordings. I think there was more of that. Yeah, it wasn't just like a fill-in replacement. I think he was a member.
Well, that was fantastic. I love that. I love that stuff. Well, it's Glen Campbell. Glen Campbell had to deal with Ovation guitars, so Glen Campbell's playing Ovation guitars. No matter where you know what I mean. He's playing Ovations.
Yeah, yeah.
He had Ovation 12 strings.
I saw a couple of Ovation guitars at Guitar Center in Nashville.
Really?
Yeah, they was in the acoustic guitar room because I'm looking for a 12-string. Anyway. But I saw Ovation. I'm like, wow, they still have these things around.
Yeah.
It's like a giant loop.
Yeah. With the round back.
The round back is just it's like a slide guitar.
Plastic round back. It looks like a dobro almost.
like a big lute. Now, was that back? Was the back of an Ovation? Was that was it like a composite material? Was it plastic? Was it fiberglass?
Plastic,
what was
I suppose. Yeah, I don't know, but they were. But Ovation was the one they had these guitar. They had these pickups in it that they had the ones with the. They were like the first ones to have these pickups built into the guitars.
The built-in electronics
with the built-in equalizers and the passive pickups. Yep.
They were the first ones you could plug directly into a PA without having a mic.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was the appeal.
Glen Campbell was an Ovation guy. Yeah, what were you saying more?
When did I start?
McCartney.
When I met up with you at the laundromat, I started coming in on Saturday mornings. That was like the early '90s, right?
So I can't gauge that anymore. Yeah,
until
sure it was.
It's all blur, right? But up until then, I thought Bread were just like this soft weight band that appealed to people that didn't really appreciate music. So one day,
soft rock.
You remember John had the Sirius XM radio. And a song came on, and I go, "This is pretty good. Who is this?" And you said, "That's Bread." And I went, "Whoa!" So I immediately went down to Schlepeck at John Schlepeck at Music Workshop. I bought a Best of Bread, and I played it. And I'm like, "This band is so much better than I thought they were. They really were." But I thought they were because I always heard the big hits. I Want to Make It With You, which I thought was just kind of bad,
Right.
They seemed kind of middle of the road back then.
Yeah, it was adult contemporary.
Yes, it was.
Yep.
Well, I think "Make With You" is a beautiful song. I sing in the car when it comes on.
These are nice songs, man. You can't whatever category it got placed in by the business. They're still nice songs.
Just
right? They were hit songs. So, I mean, it was not unlike the Carpenters. In some ways. Yeah. And the Carpenters, there was something. If you liked rock, you probably didn't like the Carpenters, but unless you find yourself tapping your foot to it, like the guilty pleasures, like in Tommy Boy. When David Spade and they're riding, they start singing the Carpenters song. Next they're singing together.
Right.
Don't you remember? They're singing "Superstar."
Yep.
But it goes with them, it goes with America, and it goes with David Pack from Ambrosia. When these guys wrote what some people consider like mellow songs, but if they were well written, they wrote some fucking great songs.
But they were acoustic.
A great song is a great song. I mean, and I learned to appreciate that because up until I was in my early 30s, I was like, you can write a ballad, but it can't be that middle of the road stuff.
Yeah,
and then I got owned.
But
on
all
that.
of us play guitar. We all play guitar, so you almost can't resist those open ringing chords like that. They're just beautiful. Mark, you want to do the available thing?
Perry, wait, you wrote a song called Ellie one time.
I did. I wrote. It was called the Ellie something cosmic theme.
Yeah, bigger
yeah.
cosmic theme.
Yeah.
Ellie,
I
I'ma
won't.
want you.
I won't mention names, Lou. Come on.
Ellie,
did.
I'ma need you.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Ellie, I'ma want
They
you.
won't hear it.
Hey guys, just want to tell all our listeners, if anyone subscribed this week, we do appreciate it. We love subscribers and we love it. We're here almost every week, unless Mark has a breakdown, he doesn't appear. But then these two guys do the show, so it's all good. If you listening to us, keep listening to us. On whatever you're listening, but we are available on Apple, Google Podcast, Amazon Music, Amazon Alexa, Pocket Casts, YouTube, Spotify. Spotify is big. Spotify, we do our special shows. If you have Spotify, we occasionally do special shows to where we can play full songs. Overcast, Podchaser, Podcast Addict, Odyssey, and Facebook. And that guy Mark has been better with updating the Facebook page. So Facebook, we try. Facebook, we do try to put full links to YouTube of so we showed the David Gates thing tonight. I will put this on our Facebook page. You can watch the whole thing. So
I'm like, okay,
yeah, man.
I'm like, yeah. You want to try an outro, Mark?
Hey, you know what? This was great, guys. Great show. I think I learned a lot. This whole thing with Cream and Felix and Mountain.
Yeah, there was a lot of simpatico thinking on the show. Yep.
Zeitgeist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Absinthe. Absinthe and
Absinthe.
Alice.
La Forza del
What the hell is
Destino.
that?
This looks
What the
like a
hell is
Steve
that?
Wilson video.
See?
What the hell is this?
There's more simpatico thinking, dude.
Look at that.
It's called the Music Relish Show.
I like the bubble writing.
Yeah, see? There, Roger Dean. Yeah.
Yeah. Noodling. Thanks to our friends, our listeners and viewers, and our subscribers. You keep us going. If you want to, musicrelishshow@gmail.com if you want to send an email.
It's called the Music Relish Show.
Will this flower ever stop growing? It's just going and going and going.
Yeah, that's hippie shit, man. It's hippie shit.
Like us, subscribe, comment. Music discussion is a group effort. If you want to join our discussion, you're welcome to join us.
Yeah.
Email
It's
us
all
at
about opinion.
musicrelishshow@gmail.com.
Yeah.
We take sponsors as well. Spoon Boy. That kid had talent.
Is Yellowtail listening? We take sponsors.
Relish Show.
Oh boy.
Called the Music Relish Show.
Here we go with that plan again. It's Jack and the Beanstalk.
All stuff.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night, everybody. See you
ya.
next week.
Farewell.
Farewell.
Music Relish.